Hey everyone, welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. Taking a look at my microphone here. And this is PRT for short, and you can call me Wolf, you can call me Josh, you can call me whatever you want. With me tonight, as always, is my esteemed colleague, Mushu. Okay.
He's just going to sit there knowing he's on camera, not saying nothing.
Yep. And then there's Anthony. Well, Mushu's hungry. I mean, Mushu's tired and hungry, but he...
No, I went to sleep. I just didn't eat.
He chose not to eat.
Yeah. Once again, chose not to eat.
Yeah. And so now he's going to be real out of it. And
to the surprise of no one in our live chat, Mushu decided not to eat.
He's going to be like fading. He's probably going to fall over at some point. So, whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to cut the camera to him, and he's just going to be passed out, mouth open and everything.
So if I can't read the chat really good, it's because I'm not wearing my glasses. I'm going to try and do it without the glasses because I hate them. And they make me look fatter than I am. I'm not going to say they make me look fat because being fat makes you look fat. But they're going to make me look worse. So somebody messaged me that the other day. They're like, "You're fat." And I was like, "Wow, you breathe air. You've figured it out. What else? What other discoveries have you made?"
What gave it away?
Thanks.
How could you tell?
Was his name Tyson DeGrasse? What is his Neil?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, thank you for that.
Wow, esteemed scholar.
Yeah, they've discovered fire. I'm also muscular, but I do have a little extra weight on me. But my wife thinks I'm handsome, so that's all that matters. Folks, PRT podcast, I can't read it actually. What is this? Patreon.com/PRT podcast. So what we have going on tonight, like the title says, we have cryptids. We're gonna have an alien abduction story or two, and we're gonna do some stuff. Thank you for that donation. Who was that? DJ Tyler Radio. Thank you for the donation. Donations are not expected, but they are appreciated. And I get it. Money's tight. People are hurting things and, all that stuff. We've been feeling the heat too. Believe me, everybody has. Was in a 3-hour business meeting today trying to come up with ways for what might become lucrative. I don't know, kind of a side hustle right now, but everybody needs a side hustle if you're going to make it in this world. This was not supposed to be that, but it has become a second job. But I like it. It's a job I enjoy. I used to enjoy doing my main job, but now it's just a job, to be honest with you. I do it to the best of my ability, and I try to do the best I can, but burnout is real. It's a very real thing. And I can tell you with all sincerity, I'm pretty burned out. Not on this. I'm not burned out on we're doing a lot of work with the show right now, so, I'm not going to complain. But what do we got going on? We got the conference coming up. Put the link to the conference, Eventbrite. It's PRT Presents second annual Dogman. Somebody says, Christopher Burke says, buffering like always. YouTube is behind this or something else. It doesn't do this with any other podcast. What's up, PRT?
It's working fine on my end.
Okay. Well, we hope that it works. Anyways, what we got going on is the conference. Bunch of people are going to be there. Everybody you can possibly think of in this community. So we want you to go. But a lot of people can't. I understand that. But there are going to be people that are going to go.
We thank everyone that will go.
And we thank you for going if you can make it. Texas is actually in the middle of the country. So everybody's saying, "Oh, it's too far away. It's in Texas." And I'm like, I didn't choose it to be in Texas because I live here. I could have chosen it to be anywhere. But people were complaining because I said Roswell. So everybody on the East Coast was like, "Ah, why'd you do it in Roswell?" And I got a bunch of people saying they wouldn't go because it was going to be in Roswell. And there's no airport close by. So we said, okay, let's try a different place. We did it in the East this last time, and everybody that was in the West. So we would have gone, but it wasn't in the West. So we did it in North Texas. And now there's all these excuses and all this anger about that. I'm getting all these people telling me, like a couple people, like one lady just, I will not go to your conference. That is a day for children. And I'm like, okay, Labor Day is, I didn't know Labor Day was for children. I didn't know that child and labor went together. I didn't know children worked, in this country.
This is for all the child laborers of America.
Yeah. So I'm just she went off on me and just like completely just said a bunch of hateful, mean stuff, and I was just not in the mood. And I actually said something kind of rude back, but I was just like, I get tired of it. I'm a human being and I got feelings too, and I just get tired of it. I get tired of being gnawed at for everything. And people, one guy's messaging me telling me, you don't know the Bible the way you think you know the Bible, blah blah blah. And then another guy said that, now this is interesting. We can start here. He sent me a message saying that Daniel, when he was in captivity to the Persians, that he actually created Zoroastrianism. And that then the remnants would have been the remnants of the Israelites. They returned out of captivity and they went back to Israel, and then that's how Zoroastrianism came to be, because Daniel taught them about the one true God. Now, there's a lot of things that are kind of wrong with that. It sounds good, okay, but and I didn't get a chance to go. I've been so busy. Like I said, I was in the 3-hour business meeting, to lunch meeting today. And shout out to Larry Fisher. He was part of the meeting, and he's a supporter of the show, watches the show, great guy. And so I got to go to this meeting and had to get things done. I have to prepare, for this brave new world that this group of buffoons that are running everything are whatever, they're running into the ground. And I'm not born as a part of that privileged class. So we like all of you guys, we're working stiffs. We got to do what we got to do to try to make it. So I will be maybe announcing this in the future, but I'm going to have a sponsor. And if you listen to me on Spotify, yes, that is me doing the voice of the commercial ad that I had to do. So, yeah. Somebody said, is that you? I said, yes, it is me. What else? We have a Tuesday show coming up. I don't even know what it's about. We recorded several, and that one of them is going to come up on this coming Tuesday. And then Thursday, we'll do the part 2 with Christopher Garetano, which apparently, once again, I talked over the guest, and I said mean things, which I don't even know what the heck this person went on a rant on the comment section. And I don't even look at the comments. Typically, you guys are the ones that pull them or whatever. I don't look at them very much. So I was like sitting in the parking lot for a few minutes today at PetSmart, and I just thought I would look at the comments. Well, I was actually looking at the numbers for the show. We're 9 people away from 23,000. Yay. For the YouTube. And so I looked at there was this comment on there saying that I was saying passive aggressive and mean things. And I'm like, I like Chris. So I don't know what the heck, I don't know what the heck that means. I don't know. I thought we had a great conversation, me and Chris Garetano, and I think he's a brilliant guy. And I didn't think that I was being snarky and mean. I don't, whatever, But it just seems like it's one of those things where you're going to get it one way or the other. Somebody's always got to say something, or they don't pay attention closely enough, and then they misinterpret what you say or something. Because I got that with the show we did about the shapeshift. What was it called? I don't know what you named it.
Oh, I think I named it Lurking in the Jungle, Dogman, Skinwalker, Shapeshifter, or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if it was really any shapeshifters in there, though. Was there?
I don't know. Let me see what I named it.
Because I mean, I don't remember there being shapeshifters in the story.
Hang on.
But I do have a story for you tonight that is about shapeshifters. I don't know if that's.
Oh, no. Okay. It's called Lurking in the Jungle, Werewolves and Flying Demons.
Werewolves and Flying Demons. There you go. So, anyways, I just was taken aback by some of these comments, and I think part of it, a big part of it, is people aren't paying attention because people were like confused. They thought that the preacher in that story had a dogman encounter. He didn't. It was the priest. There were two different people, a priest and a preacher. They were friends when they were in Nicaragua, and so there were two different things going on there. Anyways, just be thankful that you're not, living in a country where that it's not a common thing, in a country like that, where you don't have to deal with these horrible people who can take you and hold you hostage. I mean, yeah, it does happen. There's people that do bad things to people here too, but dude, it's like, what that story told me was that I'm glad to be an American. I could just tell you that. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not super patriotic, I'm not super anything. I just, I'm like America's the best country in the whole universe. I'm not one of those people. I just think that, we should be glad to live here. Because for now, even though they're eroding, we still have a lot of freedom. But it could go away real quick if we're not careful. Maynard, thank you for that donation. Chris Clough, thank you for that donation. Tyler Radio, thank you for that donation. Everybody that donates is greatly appreciated. We're going to need it. But here's the thing. I'm glad that we're doing this on Sundays now, and I love being in the studio with a guest. We had David Weatherly on Friday. Check it out. David had a ton of information. The guy's a wealth of knowledge. And I was trying to get my bearings on that story about the monk, where I had read it and what it was. And I was trying to, but I just knew that David, and we hadn't even talked about it, but I knew that David Weatherly he probably read it. He devours books. I mean, he reads more than I do. And he writes constantly. He's always writing, and he reads and he writes. But the smart people usually do. They're readers. I sent a couple books out recently, and I was shocked at the first person that told me this, but the second person really, I was like, another one? And they're like, why did you send me this? I don't read. And I'm like, okay. So apparently sending books to people makes them angry too. They're angry and confused. They're like, what do I do with this? They start lighting it on fire so they can keep warm. Oh, it's actually summer, so I don't need to do that. Should I cook with it?
How do I put this on the Wi-Fi?
They throw it against the wall to see if it sticks. I don't know what they're doing.
Where do you plug it in at? Where's the screen?
This Kindle is broken. It just has words all over it. And then they become disillusioned with Kindle because it has a bunch of these, but in digital form. The stuff that is going on now, it would be laughable if it wasn't so sad. But I'll tell you a story. I'm going to start off. I'm going to kick it off right now. I'm waiting for people to get into the chat, get a couple hundred people in here, and so people don't show up and go, "What did I miss?" And what time are we going to plan on just being here on Sunday? About 7:30 to 7:45.
Yeah, I think we can make that work.
That's going to be the Sunday time. It's going to be earlier. We start at 9:00 Central, so everybody can do it on Friday. And this Sunday thing we're doing, it's going to be earlier. It's going to be 7:30, 7:45. Try to get everybody in the chat, get it going. I'm a little tired, folks. Like I said, I had to get my sleep. I had to get up, and I had to go to this meeting. But I'm going to tell you what's going on here. So, starting off with something that weird happened at the house to me and my wife. I'm going to tell you this is going to sound insane but this is what we're dealing with. I was sitting on the phone, and I had been on the phone with several people, and they were witnesses. I was talking to different people, witnesses. And I had a conversation with Ken. We were talking about, the interviews that he was helping me with for the book. Then I had a conversation with Barton. Then I had a conversation with David. And I just went on. And I had a conversation with people that work with me. And I had thank you for that donation. Was that, my eyes aren't in, Jitesh?
Yeah, I believe so.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And so I was on the phone with several people. So all told, probably 3, maybe 4 hours of phone call. Phone was going dead. I had to plug it in. And this is what I do. And it was work stuff, and then it was show stuff, and it was just a whole bunch of stuff. And I see this. This is going to sound really. This is crazy. I see this. What looks like a bug, but I told you this, Anthony. I don't know if I told you, Tony, but it looked like a bug on one of the pillars. We have these 2 pillars in the sitting room, like the front. They're pretty. They're just aesthetic, whatever. And Amy, thank you for that donation. That's appreciated. And it's just like a bug, and I'm sitting there the whole time. And so I finally stand up. And I walk over there, and I was on the phone with my one business partner, with Marty. I was on the phone with him. And I walk over there. I said, Marty, hold on one second. And I look, and I see it's a fly. Just an innocuous, like a fly. And so I said, okay, that's weird. And I went to go, put my finger toward it. It didn't move. Which, you know how skittish flies are. If you go to touch them, they move. They, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. My wife can attest to this, and I'm going to get her to come on. I've been begging her to come on the show to talk about some of the stuff. And Zane, thank you for that donation, that $10 donation. I have a nephew that should be named that, but instead it's just, without the IN. And so later on that afternoon, my wife had come out of the bedroom and was bebopping around the house, and I was off the phone finally and was done taking notes, and I walked by the pillar and I said, honey, take a look at this fly. And I don't want to touch it. Flies are gross. I'm not going to touch it. But I went to put my finger toward it, and it did the same thing. It didn't move. And I said, look at that. It doesn't move. Well, then she goes to touch it, and it moves. It goes up and starts to fly. And so she swatted it. And it went down, like it started to go down. Now, this is where it gets really freaky. Michelle Collins, thank you for that donation. She says, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. When she did that, it started to fall to the ground, and I'm looking at y'all. I'm sitting here telling you this, and I don't want you to think I'm just making this up or I'm being crazy or I'm losing my mind. I don't know how you could interpret this, but it dissolved. I'm not joking. It looked like it turned to ash. And it was the weirdest thing. And I was like, and we both looked at each other, and I was like, did that fly literally just dissolve? And I don't know what I was looking at. This happened on Thursday. I didn't talk about it on Friday because David was in the studio, and I wasn't going to tell David, hey, let's talk about this weird thing that happened in my house. I know you got a lot of stories, but, this is important. No, it was just, and we looked everywhere on the ground. There wasn't there was like a box right there, right? Like an Amazon box. And there was nothing else around it. And I moved it, and I said, where did it go? It didn't fly away. It fell, and it looked like to me, it looked like it kind of went up, ash, and it kind of went up, and it was gone into the ether. I don't know if anybody's ever seen anything like this before. I have no idea how to describe this. I don't know how do you categorize that? I believe I told David off there when we were done talking. And he's been in my house, and he's just like, dude, you got some issues here. I mean, like, hopefully our guests, we have somebody coming in probably this coming week, which was not expected, but greatly appreciated. And I'm going to let him come and check the house out, and then probably sit in on Friday. If not, then it'll be the next week, because I had a guest slated for this coming Friday, but we may change it around. So I don't know what the heck that was. So you tell me if you can figure it out. And I'm struggling to read this. I'm trying to. Don't get old, kids. That's all I can tell you. So Rebecca Oliver, I've seen black veil-like things lift off of people and dissolve, but nothing in midair like that. Let's see what the comments say here. Thanos snap that fly. There you go. And Tracy Troutner, I'm glad you got your stuff. She brought up a good point, though. When I go to mail off the books, when you get a book, I always send a book with everything, no matter what you get. But the guy and the gal that we do our mail offs, they actually will take the stickers that we give you and the postcards and things like that. They'll stick them inside the books. So if you're like the one guy who doesn't read, you may not know that there's stuff in the books. So open the books up, and there's some goodies in there. So I don't know what this thing was that I saw.
Well, Nelly hits pretty hard. Everybody knows that, so it could have been that.
She swatted it hard or something. Because I'm sitting there going like, why? Gary Can says, I have a man wolf cloud on my phone. Send it to me. I don't repost pictures. Now, I have at least 3 pictures of ghosts from my lifetime. One that was taken at the club on a Christmas Eve. Everybody keeps pestering me to put that one on there. I'm going to look through my photo album and find it and post that one. I'm going to post it on the Paranormal Roundtable page, on the group. If people want to laugh at me or say that it's something else or whatever, you could say what you want. I was there. All right? There were 2 people. They were in front of me when that picture was taken. So I don't know who the heck that is behind me. It looks like a barmaid from like the old time days or something. So, I did a little research after I've had that picture since the 90s, and I think it has the date on it at the bottom. But I don't know. I did a little research, and I found out that those barmaids did look like that at one time. This was downtown 6th Street. I have pictures of orbs at the Driscoll Hotel, which is supposedly the 3rd most haunted hotel. And when you see those pictures, some of them have these weird looking faces on them, and some of them look demonic. I mean, you could just see it, and they're on the stairs. I did have a weird experience at the Driscoll one time, and I have not told that story before. There's a lot of stories I just haven't told. There's a lot of stuff still out there. I'm just picking my spots to tell different stories. Because a lot of little things have happened to me too. And I guess this fly thing is just more of the same. I don't know. Somebody in the comments section said, and they were being it kind of rude, I guess, in a way, but they had a point. They said, you talk about this stuff all the time, and so maybe that's why you're always having to deal with this kind of stuff. Well, maybe that's right. And they're like, well, you have no one to blame but yourself. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm blaming myself. I have a whip at home that I hit myself on the back with before I go to bed every night. You should see my back. It's absolutely tore up. Hey, did you see the thing down in the back seat of the truck?
Oh, dude.
Yeah, can you go grab it?
Yeah.
There's a key right here.
I don't know if it's still there. But...
Where would it be? Did you take it in?
I didn't take anything in.
Because I thought you took a bunch of shirts in.
I mean, like all those shirts that were loose back there, I took them in.
You might have taken.
Oh no. Okay, because we wanted to unveil something today, but that may not happen now.
You guys can just all blame Anthony.
Well,
Let's just
you
all
could have at least looked
collectively.
and see what you were taking in. Go check at least, Tony. Oh boy. Christopher Burke says, Josh, if you don't mind me asking, what all are you facing in this house? Is it similar to Austin? What does that mean? Similar to Austin? It is. It's in Austin. It's way out in West Austin near the lake.
I think he means the house down south.
Yes, it is similar to South Austin. It's distinctly different, but it is. I think that some stuff went on there. I don't know. I'm not. Mac says, I'm a Sikh and I've been praying. Pray is fine. There's a lot of people wanting to say prayers. I appreciate it. Max Brandt, here's a good one. And I wanted to talk about some cryptids and some alien abduction and what else? What else is it about?
Portals.
But here we are talking about ghosts. See, I don't know what to label these shows because it just kind of takes off and it becomes like the show on Friday with David Weatherly. It wasn't rehearsed. We didn't even talk hardly at all about what we were going to talk about.
No, that was just a casual conversation between them.
That was just me and him talking. That's what happens. And we thought, you know what? Why not just come on the show, come to the studio, and we'll just do a Friday where we just talk like we normally do. Thank you for that, Tracy Trouton. I appreciate you praying. Yeah, he clarified this similar to the house in Austin. Yeah, it is, but it's got its own distinct whatever. I don't think this is, for me, I don't think this one's as bad yet. I mean, but I know the signs, I know the warnings, and I can see it go where it's headed. The one in South Austin was bad. I mean, like for everybody. Like, it went on for a while. Then it would stop. Then it would come back. But I read a book, and I can't even remember for the life of me what it was about. And I don't know if you read this one too, Anthony. I know we've read some of the same books. But there was a ghost that would haunt these people's house until December. And then at Christmas time, it would leave. And then it would come back afterwards. It was the darndest thing. And I can't remember the name of the book, but it would leave like this little devil's tail, like drawn on the mirror that they would see whenever it would fog up. You don't remember that?
I don't think I.
Yeah, you might
I
not
read a
have read
story
that
like
one.
in that book.
We've read some of the same ones. Did you get it? Darn it. Well, that's too bad. But I hope that, I don't know what happened to that because that thing, let me message because I need to make sure.
Should all be together.
Where did you put it?
I think in the laundry room hamper.
I really wanted to show you guys this because we needed to know if we were going to mass produce these. And we're building a website. We're going to have our friend Christopher Jordan, who has Curious Realm, help us build the website. And we're going to do shipping ourselves. So that's in the works, but I got like everything else, there's a million things we're trying to get done. And I've learned that being in a three-dimensional body is very hard to achieve that many things. Therefore, I've decided to begin cloning myself. And we hope it doesn't turn out like Multiplicity. If you haven't seen that movie with Michael Keaton, go check it out. I did get around to seeing the movie Dark City. It was pretty interesting. I'm not totally sold on it because I don't really understand. I'm not going to give it away, but I didn't really understand where they were at or what that was. And, it was just like, I don't know. I mean, it's a good movie. It's kind of like The Matrix, but a little different. And it's just a very weird movie. But one of the things that I remember about being in the old house that I was in, which because this is starting to bring back memories for that, is just you're tired. You're just tired. You're tired. It drains you. And I'm trying to not let that happen. I'm trying to pray as much as possible to keep these things at bay. But the more people that pray for you, the better. The more you can, The other night I was standing there, and Anthony and me were talking, and I was leaning on the wall, and we were talking. I don't know what we were talking about. We were talking about something about the show.
Yeah.
And we were going over shop, talk or whatever. And Anthony was standing there in the, would it be the foyer? Is that what that would officially be called?
Yeah, I guess so.
And so we were standing there talking, and I kept hearing shuffling behind me. And I'm like, what in the heck is that noise? I kept turning around. It was like somebody behind me moving around. It was very distracting. It was very annoying. And it was just there. One of the people in the chat said something about the shuffling of feet, a residual haunting in Alamogordo in their apartment. That's weird. We actually talked about Alamogordo a little bit with David Weatherly because there was a case, a gargoyle story that we got out of Alamogordo. I worked security. And this isn't a real long story, but it's a ghost story. You might want to add that onto the title, Anthony, Ghosts. Okay. I don't know. But here's this ghost story I had. There used to be an older woman, and I may have told this one before, and if I did, I apologize, okay? Somebody said I'm always on here telling the same old tired stories. This guy, when somebody complains like that, I think of the Flying Dutchman dude from SpongeBob. Here he goes, telling the same old tired stories. I'm just going to take my little sock on my little weird tail and float away. I'm tired of this. Yeah. But, let me tell you something. The weird thing about being in the middle of a haunting is you can go to someone's house and you're like, this place is haunted. And when you leave, you could be the target. That's the scary thing. And I believe me and Chris talked about that on one of the episodes that's coming up, or maybe we did this last one, I don't know. But he's like, dude, I don't want to go somewhere and end up being haunted because something follows you, because it decides that it wants to go with you. And I honestly believe that I ended up going over to a couple of my friends' houses, Loki, actually. He was one of the people that lived there, and it followed me. Because then they started having problems. And guess what? At my house, it chilled out a little bit. It didn't end completely because there's more than one entity in that old place I used to live in. There were like layers, but I was told that about this place too, that it's like layers. One of the things, though, that happened to me, I was doing security for a lady, and to this day, she was a very sweet old lady. She's since passed away. And I think she was just lonely. I really think she was just afraid. She was lonely, and it was sad. I had when I first started doing my company, it was one of the first accounts I got, just me. It was I guess it would have been third account I got. And she was like, hey, I need somebody to watch my house because at night I think I'm hearing noises. And I think somebody tried to break in one night. And she lived in the area where I was doing security. And so I said, okay. So I sent her my cousin, Bo. And Bo was the first one to do that account. And he said, the house is nice. She's really sweet. She was in her late 60s, and she would always make us tea. And Anthony, I think you might have been there once with me when you were real young.
Yeah.
And she was a really nice old lady, and she just, I think she just wanted company. And so we would sit there at night, whoever worked there. My brother worked there, I worked there, Bo worked there. I think Bones might have worked there too. I don't know the names, but nicknames. But we all did, and I know Scorpion did. And so one of the things that she would just wanted to play cards and board games and stuff. And then every 30 minutes to an hour, I'd get up when I worked it and I would just go walk around. And it was pretty convenient because we had one guard at the property of the guy that owned the Oasis. We used to do security for him here in Austin. And then I worked for a woman who was extremely wealthy, and she was building a house. It was under construction. So there were three of us all kind of right there, and then we ended up doing this docks down the road, and then another place, storage place. So we kind of had a patrol going through there too. So we had this whole area by the lake. So we at one time we had 5 guards going, and it was a pretty lucrative little deal, and we all made some money and we had fun. And I'm not greedy. I shared the wealth, and so me and my guys were all right there together, and we could back each other up if something happened. I do believe at one time when I was working down there that I met Lady Gaga, and that's a whole nother story. And this was when she was younger. She had dark hair and she went by Stephanie. That's a whole nother story. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm pretty sure that was her. But she was hanging out at these people were really rich. I mean, these people, one of them was one of the people that first started working for Apple with, what's his name, Steve Jobs. He was one of his first guys working. And then the guy that started... what is that company called? Ultima? I think it was Ultima.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ultima Online.
Yeah, he lived out there, and so there were all these like really rich people. There was a stunt man who had worked for all these different people. He had all these pictures of these famous people he'd worked for. He was a stunt guy. There was a pro wrestler that lived out there. A lot of wealthy people. So you get the point. And so I'm out there and I'm doing security, and my one friend was a helicopter pilot for one of them, and he saw me. And he said, "Hey, dude, there's a lady down here that," and you remember Doughboy, right?
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Doughboy's uncle, whatever. He said, "Hey, man, there's a lady down here who says somebody tried to break in her house." And I wouldn't doubt it. There's a lot of hoodlums everywhere. And so she might need some security. I actually kind of tried to talk her out of it because I thought maybe, she just, maybe she really didn't need it because nothing had happened in a week or two. And I was like, "Are you sure? Because I don't want to be charging you." And she insisted. She was like, "Look, I'm well off. I don't, I got the impression she just wanted somebody to hang out with her. And so when I worked it was the easiest gig. Everybody wanted to do that because you're just hanging out with her, right? And just playing cards. And she would order us pizza, and she would say, here's some money. Go down and get us some food, whatever. There was really good catfish place down the road, or go get us some burgers or whatever, and just hang out with her. That's all you did. You go in at 6 o'clock, you get off at 6 in the morning. It's just an easy gig. So the first report I got, I think, was from my brother or Scorpion, one of them two. And tell them, why are they not in the moderating? Message them.
Okay.
And so I was like talking to one of, I think it was Scorp or D. They're not in the chat, or I would ask them. And they said, do you think that place is haunted? Well, at that time, we were all pretty much practically living out at the lake. And every now and then there'd be somebody at the house, but most of the time we were all working out there. We were like ships passing in the night. And I believe at that time, I think Willie was that was when he was still alive. I think he was kind of like taking care of the homestead. We were gone all the time. And so, somebody says, Max Brandt says she will not respond to her actual name. This was back in the mid-2000s, so I didn't know who Gaga was. I remember seeing her with like a group of dancers and stuff from New York City, and they were at this lady who used to work for National Geographic, and she lived out there. And so I'm sitting there, and we did that whole community. It was a gated community. And then we did work for individuals, like they would pay us extra to do stuff, whatever. And so this lady worked out there, and she was very nice. And I said, "What do you mean it's haunted?" Because, we lived in a haunted house. So the people that were, saying that, everybody that was out there had been to my house or stayed there for some period of time. And so to me, haunted, that wasn't haunted. To me, haunted was like, there's some stuff going on. Stuff's trying to touch you. You know, stuff's coming in and out of the mirrors, things like that. That was haunted to me. That didn't seem haunted. And I said, well, you know what? I do, at a certain time in the morning, I do get kind of a weird feeling when I am like going into the kitchen. And it was really weird. And this lady, she was a night owl for sure. She would go to bed about 2, maybe 3. And then we were just there. And typically, I wouldn't leave at 6 o'clock. I'd usually leave about 7 once it was daylight, you know. And I didn't charge her for it. I just stayed if it was me. No, the guys, you know, they're not doing it as a hobby. You know, they got to get paid. But I would always stay. And back then, you know, the newspaper. People don't read the newspaper. Man, back then, we still read newspapers. And I thought I was up to date because I had like a Razor phone or something. You know, you're like, I got the latest phone.
Ooh, you're high tech.
High tech, you know. And so thank you for that donation, Ditesh. And thank you for everybody that donated. We really appreciate it. We really do. And so I was going into the kitchen, and I heard the toaster oven go off right as I was walking in. And I was like, the heck? It was weird. And it was, you know, her house wasn't old, but it was one of the oldest houses in that neighborhood. It had been there for about, I think, a dozen years before they started building the subdivision out there. So it was like one of the older houses out there. And her husband had passed away just about a year or 2 before. I remember that. He hadn't been gone that long, like a year and a half. And she told me that sometimes she felt like her husband was there with her. And I was like, okay, you know, didn't notice anything, didn't feel anything the first few times I worked out there. And I didn't really think about it until I think Scorpion's in the chat now, until either him or D, one of them said, hey, I think this place is haunted. And then they told me what had happened to them. So when I was going to the kitchen, I heard the toaster go off. So I walk over there, and the toaster is up. And you know how you see the little orange, you know, inside the toaster?
Yeah.
It wasn't hot. There wasn't anything. I'm like, that's weird. And the newspaper was on the table, and it was open. And I thought, okay, that's weird. I wasn't in here reading the newspaper, and she was upstairs asleep. And I went up there to check to make sure she was still sound asleep. I did my rounds. And like I said, nothing ever happened there to show me that there might have been an intruder or anything might have, but you know, you never know. So I go downstairs and I hear shuffling of feet moving around. And it was at about between 3 and 3:15. And then I hear like that about 3:45. And I'm in the sitting room adjacent to that. And I got up. I was reading a book, and I set it down. And I go in there, and there's nothing. And I thought, am I losing my freaking mind here? Or is this place really haunted, you know? I'm just getting tired. You know, I've been working every day. I had 3 days off that year, folks. You think I'm joking. I took 3 days off that year. And I don't take many days off actually at all. No, I just don't. I don't have days off. I just do. I keep going. I do stuff. Andrew Valdez, thank you so much for that donation. We appreciate it. Thank you for your support. And so I knew there was something going on. So the next day, I remember this. The next day, I think Bane was, Bane.
Yeah.
He was slated to go work it or something. And I told Bane was a strongman competitor. That's his nickname, whatever. But anyway, Bane had said, he's a huge guy. I mean, this guy's neck is just like, and I used to strength train with him. And he was good friends with Mark Henry. You know, Mark Henry used to come to our club, look him up if you know who he is. These guys are big old dudes, man. And Bane was like, hey, man, I'm gonna head over there. I'm going to work it tonight. And I told him, no, I got it, dude. So I showed up. I checked in. Bones was working over at the mansion. We called the mansion the Comanche Trail, whatever. I said, I got it. Scorpion was Bo was doing the subdivision, and so I told Bones, I was like, I switched him out with Scorpion. He went and did the patrol, and I said I got, the lady's house. I don't want to say her name because I don't know if that's polite or whatever, but I went. I did her house. Next night, same thing. And I didn't pay attention before that because I had the TV on. You're watching TV, and you don't hear it. You know what I mean? The only reason I heard it that night was because I was reading a book. So I did the same thing. We played cards about 2:30. She got really tired. I escorted her to bed, put her to bed, went back down, and I would do things for her. Like she would warm milk and stuff like that. So I'd go and I'd do it. She liked cocoa in it, whatever. Just, you just help her out. She was just a lonely person. Her children lived up in like Wisconsin or something. And they weren't exactly the best example of like good children. You know what I mean? It was like they were just waiting for her to die so they could swoop in like vultures and get her money or whatever. And I felt bad for her because she lived for them to call her and the grandchildren, and they hardly ever came. Same thing happened when I worked in a retirement home. It was just sad watching those people sit there just looking out the window waiting for their family to come visit them, and then their family had a million excuses. It was hard. But I've always liked working with older people and listening to them talk because they just want to be heard. They just want to be heard. They want people to listen to them. And not, damn it, our generation and the generation after just doesn't have time for anything. So at least if you're working there, it affords you time to help these people.
Yeah, I liked working over at that one.
Renaissance?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so, I was working with this older lady, and I enjoyed her company. And her father was like a veterinarian, had some really crazy stories. She helped a horse give birth and all this stuff. She told me about it, and she was a kid. Got her involved in taking care of horses, and they owned horses at a little farm that she had sold, which I've talked about that place before because there was some a colt that had gotten ripped apart by some kind of animal. It lived, but it was like they had to put it down because something had happened to it. That's why I think there was something weird going on out there. But so I was talking to her, and she says, my husband, she said he used to get up every night. He would only sleep. He'd go to bed at 9 o'clock, and he'd wake up about 2:30, and he'd get up and read the paper, and then he'd come to bed about 4 o'clock and go back to sleep until about 9 in the morning. And I said, I'll be damned. She said he did that 20-something years. That's what he always did. So once he was retired, and he was about 10 years older than her, and she really missed him. And he suffered a heart attack, and he had passed away. And I didn't know him. There are pictures of him. He was in the military. He was a handsome older man. And she was a very beautiful young woman when in her prime. She was beautiful. They were very, very beautiful people. And she said all these great things about him. And so when I was standing there in the sitting room, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to find out. I turned the TV off. It was about 2 o'clock. So I started reading my book. Nothing spooky. I was reading something like Lord of the Rings or something. And I don't read a lot of fiction, but that and Star Wars I like those. And I heard it again. I heard somebody clear their throat, and I heard, somebody's shoes like shuffling. And then I heard a toaster pop, and I heard a newspaper. And I thought, oh my gosh. I was like, dude, this is a trip. So I walk in there, and there's nobody there, right? Mm-hmm. And, and I said his name. I said, hey, if you're here, I'm your friend. I'm not your enemy, whatever. I'm here to take care of and watch over your wife. And the weirdest thing happened. Like when I was walking out, she had this like arrangement, this floral arrangement on on the table. And this is really weird. And like I said, I don't know if I've told you this whole story or not, folks. If I have, I apologize, whatever. But there was this one white, I guess it was orchid in the middle of it. And I took it and I was like, I'd never seen this one before. And it was real. It was a real flower. So I took it and I was like, that's weird. I always thought they were fake, the flowers, but it was different. It was a different. And so I just, that morning, she woke up. She usually was asleep when I left, but she got up and she's like, morning. And I was like, hey, how's it going? She's like, I had the weirdest dream. She's like, I dreamed that Nate, okay, well, there's his name, but she said, I dreamed that he had come to me and he said, I gave the nice man a flower. And I was like, I was like, the nice man. And I was getting ready to leave. And so I sat there for a minute and I was actually gonna have to go and cover for about 6 hours over at the, remember how much we worked, Anthony? You were just a kid and you were helping us.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not in no hurry. So, I texted my cousin and said, hey, I'll be there in a little bit. I'm talking to the missus here. And she said that, yeah, he said he gave the nice man a flower. And so I went into the kitchen and I grabbed it and I said, is this, because this wasn't there at the beginning of the night. And there's no way she did it. And so she's like, oh my gosh. And she's like, that's my favorite flower, And so I said, well, he gave it to me, left it for me. I'm giving it to you. And I left totally just kind of like, whoa, very weird. And then subsequently, I think Scorpion worked it. And I think Dee did too. I think we all had worked it. And it was just a weird thing. I mean, I'm trying to remember which one of them had a really profound experience there too. I think it might have been my brother. But anyway, he was working it. And the same thing happened to them. They would hear the toaster go off. And I know my cousin, it happened to him. And I told him, I said, that's just, him puttering around the house. So, there's that. And it was nothing creepy or like, like, oh my gosh, this is scaring the crap out of me. I got to be away from here. It was very, very calm, peaceful. And I got this smell of this cologne. It was canoe. And I know it was because I said, sometimes I get a smell of like a cologne. She's like, yeah, he liked to wear canoe. And so I didn't know what that smelled like. And so she gave me a whiff of it and I was like, ugh, but it's kind of what it smelled like, And so, and then he liked the polo, the green polo. I don't like it, but, and sometimes I would smell that, just like in my house, sometimes I'd smell Stetson and I never wore Stetson in my life. But, it was weird. And I just thought, this guy, maybe this is him. He's just going to be there and be around until she's, and so.
He's just waiting.
Yeah. And here's a weird thing. She told me, Canoe says, isn't that from the 70s? Yeah, it was, she had a very old bottle of it that he would wear. But, these colognes, I got a friend that actually sells colognes. I was actually there yesterday. He works at the mall over there at Lakeland Mall, Sam. And he can get you cologne that's been gone for 20 years. Now, he'll tell you, look, when you get this bottle of cologne, it's probably not going to smell as good as you remember it because it's been sitting in some warehouse, who knows where, for who knows how long. So it's probably not going to be, smelling, like super, But, the canoe was around for a while. But I smelled it, and I just thought, that's what I smell, And she had told me that when she had in a dream, she had seen him because sometimes she would have dreams, and she thought that he communicated with her. And she said that she thought that he had told her that she needed to get security. So I don't doubt that there might have been somebody did maybe try to get into their house, but I personally was of the opinion, I think it was one of Doughboy's little friends or somebody, you know. Now, I wasn't Doughboy. He's a guy we knew. He used to drag race and stuff, and he might listen to the show. I don't know. He's a friend. He's been a friend of mine for years, but one of his little friends might have been like, you know, because, you know, he wasn't a bad guy, but, you know, when you hang around with certain people, I mean, you never know. So I had asked him about it, and I said, you think one of your friends might have tried to mess around over there? And he goes, I don't think so, but you never know, you know. I don't know what they do. They might come by when I'm not around or something. So I kind of assumed maybe one of them was just, I don't know if trying to break in, but maybe vandalizing some stuff. But anyway, that's what happened.
That flower is kind of sticking with me though, because I wonder what the scientific logistics of that are, like when physical objects just kind of appear somewhere as a result of a supernatural phenomena, because it kind of reminds me of that story with the pickles. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Which pickles?
Your story with those pickles.
Oh, my grandmother.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that one. Yes. Yeah, I don't think I've ever told that story on the show either. You know what? I'll save that one for next week. I have to tell you guys that story of the pickles.
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't want to give it away if you weren't ready to talk about it yet, but it's the same. Like, where do these things come from? That, I mean, you can't get something from nothing.
Yeah.
So what? I mean, where were they originally, and how did they end up just in someone's house?
Like physics, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like we had that conversation
the scientific
today.
Explanation behind that, the one that we don't yet possess, but at some point will, because all supernatural activity does have a scientific explanation. We just don't possess it yet.
Thank you for that, Fab Welder one. We appreciate it. A little help for the conference. Anything helps. Thank you. Yeah, we were in a business meeting today with 3 other people who were business-minded people. My mortgage broker tells the other 2 business guys, they says this guy's a show about the paranormal. And so I was like, yes, let me tell you about that for an hour. No, that's not what happened. We didn't get, but we did get into some weird stuff. And everybody kind of has a story, and so we started talking and going down the rabbit hole and talking about some weird stuff. And we ended up getting into quantum physics. I think everybody at that table was pretty intelligent. So the people that were there were very, very smart, astute business people. But they were like, yeah, well, this stuff is real. Everybody kind of agreed.
Yeah.
And they were highly fascinated by my show. 2 of them that watch it, maybe watching now. And then the other person who had never, seen it. But anyway, he may be actually renting a space from us over here at the studio, because we have an empty room that just needs to be filled. But he's a very smart guy. He's in real estate, does a lot of real estate work. And he was talking about weird stuff. He was like, dude, there's some weird stuff that happens. And we don't know exactly how it works. We have no clue. Really. We really don't. I mean, some people in the ghost community would be like, oh, I know how it works, and they'll try to tell me. And I'm like, yeah, but how does it really work? How is it that people can like their mother or father pass over, or their brother or sister or spouse, and they will have an affinity for a certain animal, and that animal will appear in their yard, which happened to a friend of mine. And this animal, just a bunny rabbit, a wild rabbit, just hopped right up to her and just became part of the, just picked it up and played with it. I just watched a show. My wife did. She was telling me about it. I've seen or heard that story before about these people whose mother passed away, she had an affinity for cardinals, and this cardinal just stuck with them. And I could do a whole show on that. But anyway, we're going to move on. Who knows? Who knows how it all works? I don't know if anybody would care about that. But we were going to unveil the paratrooper jersey tonight, and we don't know what happened. Got thrown in the wash. Yeah. So, but I was going to show you guys and thought maybe you guys might like it, and then we're going to put them up for order. You guys can order your own if you like. Now, I didn't know if you guys would, and I don't have it here to show you. I wish I did. So now I got to wait until Friday. But I was hoping that you guys could check it out and tell me what you think.
Well, I think it looks really good.
Yeah, it might be something you might
really,
be
really
interested
cool.
in, and it has my last name on it. I don't know. Some people get their favorite ball player's name on it. I don't know if you'd want mine, but or Moo Shoes. You could get his. You get a jersey with his last name on it. But you know, whoever's last name, or get your own. You can go and stitch your own last name on it if you want to. You know, I didn't want to get a jersey and then have my last name on there and then sell them with my last name on it, because I thought, like, I don't know if people are gonna want that, you know. But anyway, we're gonna go into some other stuff here. The title of the show, what do we call it? Cryptids and portals. I'll start off with this. I don't know. I know you guys have heard a lot about portals, and I even had a couple people come on my show and talk about portals and talk about what they are, what they could be, and it's really hard to fathom. Like you know, we've had Jessica Jones on the podcast talk about it. We had Anthony Ceballos come on the live stream and talk about going through a portal. He believes he went through a portal. You know, I think we even talked a little bit about it with David on Friday, David Weatherly, when he was in the studio, and it was about the devil's backbone and people going through time loops or time warps. You know, not necessarily a portal. It's just like a rip in time, like a tear, or, you know, whatever in time. Who knows what's going on with these things, you know? But I got one for you, and I wanted to do one. I was going to tell one that happened in the desert, but then I thought I'm kind of waiting, because I'm going to do a show about terrifying experiences that people have in the desert with all kinds of stuff, everything from ghosts to lizard people to werewolves to Wendigo, and this one in particular was a very odd experiences people had, and it was up in Oklahoma. Sorry, I feel a little lightheaded all of a sudden. Can you open this real quick? Like, I'm just really thirsty, or I'm hungry, but I know I can't be hungry because I ate breakfast or lunch, whatever.
You need a stabilized bar?
Nah, I can't do it on the air. So anyway, folks, here's the thing. These guys, one of them was named Kyle, the other one was named not Randall, that was a different one, Darren. But Darren and Kyle sent me an email, or Kyle did anyway, and they're like best friends since high school. And it's funny because Darren is black and Kyle is white. And they couldn't look more different when it comes to the way they dress, everything. But they were childhood friends. But what's really weird is when me and David were talking about on Friday about the cultural differences between, like, one person seeing something and someone else seeing something, it was really weird interviewing them, because they each kind of had their own take or opinion on what they thought it was. And I really believe it was shaped a lot by their individual lifestyles and their family. And they don't get together very often, because one of them now lives in not in Kansas, in Colorado, and the other one lives in Oklahoma. So they were exploring this area of supposed high strangeness near Brown Springs. Now, people have probably heard of this because they had heard people on different podcasts say that there are Bigfoot there. We've also heard of Dogman there. Now, if you go and you talk to Tex from Texas Front Porch, you'll know who I'm talking about. I don't know if he's interviewed these guys. I know that they sent their story in to another person, but I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm going to tell your story, or you can tell it, you know, and they did not they could not make a Friday because they both work on Friday, and that would be when they would be able to tell their story. Or we could record, but like I said, getting them both together was like herding cats. So it's one of those things. Just give me the story, I'll tell it, whatever. Which, it's just probably the easiest way to do it. And this one was really weird. Now, if you recall Martin Groves talking about what happened to him, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about. He hears this like clanging metal noise, and then he sees this dogman, werewolf-looking creature, and it comes out and it attacks someone and kills them. And he witnesses it. Well, since then, there have been multiple people who've come out. Somebody says, I missed an hour of the show. I was listening to the Chupacabra episode of PRT Podcast. Jordan, we were just talking about ghosts the first, hour or so. And I told a ghost story that I may or may not have told on the show before. I have so many. But it was a very weird thing, this thing that happened to Martin. But what happened to Kyle and Darren was very similar. They're walking through the woods and it's dusk, and they hear this metal scraping noise, and they go to where they hear the noise, and what they see is what looks like a shimmering like blur. Now we know that we hear all the time about these buildings that appear out of nowhere. I say all the time. It's not like every day, hey, I saw a building appear out of nowhere. Hey, what's up? See ya. That's not like something you hear all the time, but it does happen. And then you hear this loud scraping noise. I've even heard people say it sounds like somebody shutting a metal door to like a warehouse, like bang, You know what I'm talking about, Tony?
Mm-hmm.
We've heard this multiple times.
It's like a metal scraping.
Like a metal scraping noise, like something's opening or closing. Well, this particular couple of guys heard this noise, and they went towards it. And what originally looked blurry to them, as it got darker, they started to notice that it looked green, almost like a fluorescent green, like grid. And they sat there and they just stared at it. They were just like, dude, we're just staring at this building. The electronics quit working. Their they had headlamps, whatever that they tried to turn on, didn't work. Phone didn't work. Nothing worked. Nothing electronic. Their watch, one of them had a watch, one of those smart watches, whatever, didn't work. And so at that point, I asked, this one was Kyle. And I asked him, I said, what do you think was going on with this? He says, I don't know. But we got spooked, so we decided to head back to the truck. And so we made the decision that we were going to walk back. And he goes, my friend was only going to be there for a couple days, and so we had to make a choice. And they decided to walk back. As they're walking back, they hear footfall, which sounds like it's following them. Now, here's where their stories kind of differ, and this is what got me. Was like, when you start getting into like cultural differences, right? Kyle immediately thought it's got to be some kind of Bigfoot, whatever. And he says, I thought it was a Bigfoot. That's the first thing I thought. The area is known for Bigfoot. The building that we saw, we have no idea what it was. No idea. So we just keep walking. His friend, being African American, immediately thinks this is some kind of demon. He's just like, there's something demonic following us. Kyle's like, no. It's probably just a squatch. And him being of the opinion that this thing is flesh and blood. His friend's like, dude, we keep turning around. We don't see anything. There's a building glowing in the dark with metal scraping noises. I don't know, What do you not understand? This is not normal. This is not a normal Sasquatch encounter. If it is a Sasquatch encounter. And so Kyle was still convinced that this had something to do with Bigfoot. and it was just a weird story. So they kind of began to argue politely. I mean, they weren't like fighting or whatever. His friend lived in Colorado and he was only there for a few days. He's like, look, dude, let's just go back to the truck. Kyle turns around and says, I'm going to go back up there. I'm going to see what this is. Something's behind us. So he starts talking to it, yelling, saying, hey, show yourself. His friend, he's like, don't show yourself. We're good. We don't need to do that. Kind of reminded me of Kevin Hart. Why would you throw a pin when you don't know what it is?
Yeah.
He's like crying. He goes, I wasn't crying like I was sad. I was crying because I was upset. I'm like, why would you throw a pin when you don't even know what it is? And that's kind of what happened. Big Daddy, thank you for that donation, $5. Appreciate it. And everything helps. Appreciate it. And so I get it. You know, he's like, why would you do this? You know, why are you going to go back up there? He's like, dude, it's further to go to the truck now than to go back up to this weird looking building. And he says, dude, let's at least go back and see let's go explore it. And it just seems like to me there is a cultural difference there. You know what I mean? So they go back up. He decides, okay, my friend's going to, I'm going to follow him. So they get back up over this little hill. They see the building there. And Kyle decides that he's going to actually go in and explore it because there's an opening. There's a little rectangle, and there's an opening. He said it looked like a hangar. And I said, hangar, how big? Like big enough to fit a plane or a tractor? And he's like, no, just like a hangar, but not huge. Like maybe the size of like 5 vehicles. Like maybe you could fit 4 or 5 vehicles in there. I have a 3-car garage, so maybe, a little bigger than that. So he goes in, he takes off walking up there. And Rand, I keep wanting to call him Randall. His friend tells him, I'm not going in. You go ahead and I'll stay back. And he's like, I think there's something really wrong here. Flashlight's not working. Phone's not working. This is how horror movies...
I was just going to say.
This is how horror movies are made, So Kyle goes in. Hold that thought for a second. Kyle goes in. He says when he walks into this, there's a door right there. He pushes it open. JFA says, sorry I'm late. Wolf finally got caught your stream. Do you mind starting right back to the beginning? Thanks, bro. Okay, so let's rewind it. No. Just going to have to keep up, bro. Appreciate it, JFA. Appreciate it. But anyway, he goes inside. He says, when I go inside, immediately, the first thing I notice is that everything's black. And his friend refuses. He's like, I'm not going in there. But while he's standing there, he sees something off to his right. And it's almost dark at this point. And he says, dude, the thing had its head down and it was walking away. And then he saw when it lifted up his head, he said, dude, like, to him, there was no mistaking what he saw. He's like, it was a werewolf. Like, it was a freaking 8-foot-tall werewolf. There was no, like, oh, I don't know what that is. I don't, well, maybe it's a Bigfoot or whatever. And he even described in detail that it was spotted, kind of like a hyena, but it was very wolf-like. Like, very wolf-like. He said it was not no... spotted, it was a hyena. Like people see hyenas with the rounded ears. No, he said it was triangular ears. They were up high. He goes, and it was walking along like it didn't see me. And he goes, he got ducked down and there was grass. And he goes, and I just acted like, this is just what it is. I'm not gonna, and he said he was terrified. So then his buddy comes back out of this, what I can only describe as a portal. And he has to open that door and close it again. And he's like, this is the noise that it made. So he runs around the outside of the building. And when they look, both of them, he saw his friend. His friend says, we got to get out of here. There is a freaking creature, a werewolf, freaking werewolf, spotted brown and black, spotted werewolf creature. And he's like, didn't believe it. He didn't believe it. He's like, I there's no way. I don't know what you saw, but werewolves don't exist, right? So he asked me that. He said, werewolves don't exist, right? And I told him this. I said, unfortunately, they do. I said, some people call them dogmen. Some people call them skinwalkers. Larry, thank you for that donation. Had a great time at lunch with you today. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate you just being at lunch today with us for the business meeting. I said, unfortunately, they do, and I can't tell you exactly what they are, because that was his next question. He was going to say, I knew he was going to ask me that, and he's like, I was just about to ask, what are they? And I told him, I said, I don't know what they are. I said, I saw one when I was 15. I still don't know what the heck it is. What he described was a hyena-type looking creature, because it had the kind of a hump or ridge on its back. But it was not like the face, the snout, everything was more wolf-like with the black spots on the brown body. And he said it was just kind of sniffing the air, and that's when he dropped down. Well, they go around the side of this. This is really weird. Not like this whole thing isn't weird, but this is really weird. But they go to the side of this building, and they don't see anything. Adding to this weirdness is when they go around this, like if you were standing outside of a barn, okay, and you walked around to the side of the barn, you look at the side of the barn. Well, that's not what these guys saw. They go around the side of this building, and they look, and there's nothing there. They can see it's like they can see, like it's just, there's nothing. So they think, hey, this has got to be some sort of hologram, a simulation or something. All these different thoughts going through their heads. So I asked him, I said, did you touch it? He goes, yeah, I'm getting to that. He goes, this is what I did. He goes, I walked up to put my hand where it should be. There's nothing there.
That sounds like something called non-Euclidean geometry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
Explain what that is.
Well, so Euclidean geometry is just geometry as we know it. The geometry of three dimensions: length, width, depth. But non-Euclidean geometry is like if you've ever seen like those impossible images of like stairwells constantly going up or infinitely going up or infinitely going down. It's like the geometry of like another dimension, and it's something that we can't quite fully grasp, but it's kind of like a theoretical type of geometry.
Yeah, it's
like if you were to take what we believe as geometry, like how we perceive the world, and apply that to like the dimension beyond ours.
Yeah, and sorry, folks, I got work stuff. Never ends.
H.P. Lovecraft
live for the day when I can
use that to describe the world of these different like entities and beings, like these like he would describe like these giant non-Euclidean monoliths of impossible shapes and colors and forms that we can't possibly perceive in our three-dimensional mind.
Yeah, Michael Sproul, thank you for that generous donation. Very greatly appreciated. Madeline Chap, thank you. Hey, Maddie, how you doing? Brady, the offer's still open, like I told you. You want to come work? Let me know. It says I got my first unemployment check, and I wanted to share. Dude, if you're getting, dude, come work with us. We got a place for you. You want a job? You seem like such a nice guy. Just, take care of yourself. But what's so weird is that when he's reaching out to touch this, whatever it is, there's nothing there. And they know that there's this creature that's stalking around out there because they saw it. So the question is, Kyle, did he walk into a portal because it was just pitch black The sun was gone. There was nothing there. It was just blackness. And he heard what he thought was water dripping. Didn't know where he was at. Comes back out. So you got to ask the question, like, where was he? What was it? What was going on there? He comes back out of this, which I can only describe as a portal. He goes around the side of it to kind of find, like, maybe the origins of it or whatever. There's nothing there. I mean, nothing they can see or touch. So they very, very bravely, I would say, they walked across, like, where this thing was, where this portal or whatever it was. And it was like nothing. They just walked across it. When they got to about the middle of where the building should have been, they walked straight out, good 10, 15 yards. They turned around, they looked, and the building was there. Like it was there again. Now, you got to start wondering, what the hell is that? I mean, what in the heck is going on? What is that?
Yeah, someone in the chat earlier had a comment that pertained to
Kano, how
this
you
thing.
doing?
It sounds like a
Oh, and Michael Sprout, thank you for that. $100.
gate of some
That
sort.
was an awesome guy.
Uh,
I had a conversation with him. He's a really cool dude.
But someone in the chat left a comment saying H.P. Lovecraft said that they passed through strange angles and paths to get here, something like that. But it makes sense. Because like to us, the paths and angles through which supernatural beings travel would be strange, but to them it's just another day in the life, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Brain Blossom. That's very good. Yeah, she. I don't know who this person is, but someone would have been watching them if they were that close to that building. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what? I didn't even think of that, but yeah,
I did.
There's no way their presence would have gone unknown.
Mm-mm.
No, I mean he entered it, so
Something, you know, and then okay, now this opens up a discussion for us here, okay? Because here at Paranormal Roundtable, I try to be a host, a good host, and actually engage, you know, and try to make you think. I try to ask questions, get the brain going here. If somebody, if they can walk over the middle of where this thing supposedly is, then they go to the right and they walk out and they turn around, they look, and now it's there again.
Yeah.
Now, this second time around, Kyle, you know, got his friend, drug him along to go into it. He went up to the door, opened it. Now, the weird thing about it wasn't like the door was right there at the front where you opened it and you went in. There was like an entry room where you could kind of go around either side of this little rectangular room in the middle of it, like a room within a room. And then that's where the door was, where you open the door and then you go in. You see what I'm saying? So he goes, he pulls this metal door open, and then they go in. But the question is, where were they going into? What were they going into? Because at this point, they both go inside. His friend, very briefly, Kyle's friend, because Kyle's the one I talked to the most, came right back out. He was like, I'm not doing this. And that would be me. I mean, I'll be very honest with you, folks. I'm not curious enough for answers to risk being stuck in a parallel world. I'm just not. I'm perfectly happy to not have all the answers, because there's a bunch of people who I've talked to, and they'll tell you, they'll be like, you know what? I'd be the one to go in there and do all this crazy stuff.
good for you.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Look on the bright side. If that happens, no more bills, no more taxes.
It's like that song by Shinedown. Good for you. You know, monsters are real. How's it go? And they're trained how to kill. Go check out that song by Shinedown. You know what I'm talking about? My monsters are real. Yeah. I know this. I'm not going to go in there and go, oh, let's check this out. Let's go into this alternate reality, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Let's investigate, gang.
Yeah, I'm not in the Scooby Gang. So I just thought, this is crazy. Like, I'm not going to go in there and go dig around for answers. I don't need clues. I'm good. So when they walk back out, they see this creature again, kind of down this like little slope. And there it is. Like it's, they see it from the backside. So they went a long ways around it. And then they got to their truck and they said it was the most terrifying walk they'd ever had. And they kept hearing something following them. Now, here's the other thing. When I asked these gentlemen, I said, what do you think was following them? And of course, a lot of people are going to say, well, it was the Dogman creature. They said, no. I asked them, I said, I mean, do you think it was the Dogman creature? They said, no. We walked so far around that thing was like somewhere else. Whatever was following us was invisible. And they don't believe that it was that creature, but they think that something invisible was manifesting in a physical way to where they could literally hear it walking behind them and hear the footsteps. And so you're sitting there going like, what is this? And when you go down the rabbit hole, this isn't an isolated incident, folks. Anthony Ceballos came on my show. He believes his life's never been the same, that he's been in and out of different timelines since he was at Donkey Lady Bridge in San Antonio. Isn't that where he said?
Yeah.
And he went into a portal. I had Jessica Jones on talking about a story that she had gotten about a portal. I've had tons of people send me stories about portals. What are they? I have no idea. Barton's in the chat right now. Barton could probably tell you. I mean, he saw what looked like some opening in the sky when he was young. Barton is an experiencer like I am. But you got to wonder. Hold on one second. Oh, my eyes. My eyes burn like yours were, Anthony, earlier.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder, like, what was it that these gentlemen encountered? They got back to their vehicle. They drove back home. A few days later, the one guy leaves, goes back to Colorado, and it's over. That happened during the pandemic, 2020. Yes, Madeline says, did it have the predator effect that they could see? The building did at first. It did have that. But then it turned, they could see kind of like the outline of a greenish glow. Brett Loffer, I don't know if you're joking or being serious.
Well, invisibility in theory is actually not out of the realm of possibility, because it's really just a matter of bending light rays the correct way, like in just the right way. And like you can actually look it up on YouTube. You could type in like real invisibility and find some experiment where these people put like a piece of string, like a thread or something, inside some water. And they did something that resulted in that string not being visible in that little container of water anymore, and it's because of the way they found that they could bend light rays.
Well, there is a guy, and the two of the smartest people that have ever lived, and one of them was Nikola Tesla. The other one was Nikola Kozyrev. Now, Kozyrev may not be as famous as Tesla. He spent 10 years, or over 10 years, in a Russian gulag, in the communist gulag in Soviet Union, because they like to stuff smart people in places like that. because it's much easier to rule over dumb people. But anyway, Kozyrev, if you just look up Kozyrev's mirror, and it literally deals with the bending of space and time. While he was locked up for his 10 years, I think he was locked up from like after the end of the war until like 1952 or something like that. It was terrible. This guy was a brilliant man. He began to mess with theories and things from his memory. And so whenever they did actually built this Kozyrev's mirror, they came to the conclusion that it really worked. They believed that it worked. And many of the people who were inside of this I guess it would be like a container. I mean, look it up, Tony, Anthony, one of y'all. Okay. And you could probably read it out loud, whatever, because I'm going from memory. But what I remember reading about it was that Nikolai Kozyrev, and it's spelled Nikolai with a K, like the Russians spell it. It's crazy because what they did was they had these experiments, and when they let people come into this chamber, they reported all kinds of weird phenomena.
Okay, so it's like a tube, and in the inside of that tube,
it's like aluminum.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like the whole inside of the tube is like reflective, and it's big enough for a person to go and sit or stand in.
Does it say anything about the different weird paranormal phenomena that took place because of this experiments that they did?
Hang on, I'm still reading through it.
It's a curved mirror.
So it says it is alleged to focus different types of radiation, including that coming from biological objects, when those objects are placed inside of it. Kozyrev mirrors were used in experiments related to extrasensory perception, ESP, conducted in the Institute of Experimental Medicine of Siberia, division of the Russian Academy of Sciences.
Yeah. Oh, XN says in a tube. Okay. I like a curved mirror. Okay, I just said that. XN, sorry about that. I don't know. You remember me spamming the Kozyrev mirror in your previous live streams. I don't remember that, XN. If you...
Actually, it sounded familiar, and I think it might be because I saw that comment.
Yeah. If you want your comment read, just... and for me to notice it and stand out from everybody else, you can send a really tiny donation or something. I'm not telling you to use it. I'm not trying to get you to donate. I'm just saying to make it stand out so that I can, if it's something you really want me to read, I will notice that. And that's why it's called a super chat or whatever. Is that what it's called, super chat?
Yeah, super chats.
I don't know. And you don't have to donate a lot, 99 cents or something. I mean, that way I can see it because it's, whatever. But anyway. Wasn't trying to blow you off or whatever. I mean, I have a lot of stuff going, and I have to have the glasses on to see. I thought I could do it without them, but I'm full of crap. I can't. But if you Nikola Tesla talks, and he's another Nikola, he's very intelligent. But Nikola Tesla talks about how there's infinite energy. It's around us at all times. You can draw from it, and I really believe you can do this. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you, oh, I've touched people and healed them. But I believe channeling the God energy through Christ, I believe that I have played hands on people and helped them get better. I believe that I've healed my own wounds. This is stuff that actually works. Just look up Reiki. The Reiki energy and all these other things. You got all these people that have these cultural biases, like David talked about. It's just, they're going to believe different things because you got different people who come from different, places. And I'm going to give you a promise right now. I'm going to give you a guarantee on this show. And I want to say this before I forget. Somebody said to me the other day, they said, what are you going to do? This was another obviously a very intelligent, ingenious person. They said, "What are you going to do when you run out of stories, run out of material to talk about?" So my message to this person, which I messaged back, and I showed Anthony and Nellie, was probably rude of me, but I said, "You were a person who gets bored." And this person says, "Yeah, I do. I get bored real easy. Your show bores me. Got real. Yeah, your show bores me. I don't like your show. Your show bores me." You know, I always imagine somebody that's that ridiculous. They talk like that. Yeah. You know, they do or they chew gum. Yeah, you bore me. They do the Mike Ditka thing. And I just laughed. I said, "You know what? I haven't been bored in 25 years. Well, that's impossible. Everybody gets bored. Smart people get bored." I said, "Yeah, smart people also figure out a way to not be bored. Smart people get bored when they think they've figured everything out and then they're tired of learning." He says, "You know what my IQ is? It's 160. Like, he's full of crap. It's not. I don't believe you, sir. Send me the proof." And you know, and then I'll just send you a message, TLDR, whatever. And that's what I think of that. But I told him, I said, I really don't give a crap what you say your IQ is. I said, "Do you know what IQ is? It's the ability and the capacity to learn. It has nothing to do with what you already know. Really, it does, but it's really just how you can retain and learn, and that's really what it is. That's the measure of intelligence. And then you know that you always continue to learn. You don't stop learning until the day you die. And then you learn something even more real." And so I told this person, I said, "Look, I'm sorry that you get bored. I don't have time to get bored. We have time on this earth, and that is literally the most precious commodity, the most precious resource, the most precious form of currency that we have is time. When you work a job, you're trading time to your employer. And in exchange for that time, they pay you, right? Even if it's just a job you're doing to build a shed, you're still taking time. There's really no way to remove that from the equation. It takes time to do these things. No matter what the job is, you have to take time out to do the job. And so I told this person, and I said, "Let me tell you something. If you're getting bored, then you have a mental defect that many humans have. But there's a way to become unbored. And that's to like and to learn to like to learn. And what I mean is you should want to and quest for and thirst for knowledge. Now, not everybody can do that. How do you think people that are extremely fit get that way? Most of them aren't just naturally that way. Most of them have strict diets that they follow and strict regimens that they follow, and they learn to be disciplined. And over time, you will learn to enjoy certain things. Like I enjoy the pain I feel at the gym. I enjoy feeling it in my arms and in my chest and my back, my legs. The pain is good.
Because you know that it's a productive pain, that it's a pain that's going to lead to something positive.
Well, it also floods your body with endorphins and you become addicted to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like on, what was that movie with Van Damme, Cyborg?
Yeah.
He's like, "We can end the suffering. I like the suffering. We can end the pain. I like the pain. Go to hell. Been there."
Damos Mars says pain is pleasure, pinhead.
You know, and so whenever you get to the point where like I don't like sugar. I can't stand, I took a sip the other night of a Coke. Made me sick. No offense to Barton. Guy's got kidneys of steel. I can't do it. I just cannot drink a Coke. I can't drink a Dr. Pepper. I can't drink any of that. I can't have sugar. I can't have a sugary snack. I can eat sugar-free pudding or Jell-O, but I don't like sugar, and I don't eat a lot of salt. I'm on a very low salt diet. Now, I do eat fat. but I don't like certain foods, and you just become that way. It's just one of those things where you're like, you condition yourself to enjoy things. Like Anthony likes the taste of bitter. I'm not necessarily a bitter drinker person that likes bitter, but people do that.
Yeah. I mean, I like my chocolate really bitter too. I love that real like bitter, strong cacao chocolate.
Yeah, and so you learn to enjoy certain things, and that's But I basically just told this person. I usually don't give them the time of day, but every now and then I'll just give somebody just for whatever, and I'll tell them, look. I told them, I said, there's all kinds of things to be learning out there. If you want to expand your mind, then don't get bored.
It's just a matter of perspective. I mean, it's really important to shift your mindset towards anything that, before you can start to really enjoy it. I mean, if you go into something with a negative mindset, then you're not going to get anything out of it.
That's right. Most of our listeners here are smart. David said that. David was like, yeah, intelligent, people. Everybody who's been associated with the show, who's come on the show, they go back and they watch, and they're like, you guys are becoming known, not just us here at this round table here, but the listeners of this show are awesome. I can't tell you how proud I am. I'm going to be on a show tomorrow night. Tomorrow's Monday, right? Yeah. Tom Cardos. I'm going to be on with Tom Cardos. Me and Barton are going to be on with Tom Cardos. Tom, if you're in the chat, send me a message. Let me know what time we're supposed to be on. DCR44, not me. I'm amazing. Tom is going to have a show tomorrow night. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm just going to get on there and we're going to talk, and I'm going to do him a solid because he's a good guy. I like Tom. I think he's a good guy, and so we're going to be on there talking. So you're going to get me tomorrow night on a show, and then we'll have another show we're going to drop on Tuesday. What is that one about? I don't even remember.
Well, we did too. So
the next Tuesday one I think should be more along the lines of ghosts, supernatural, that type of stuff.
Cool.
That one's a good one as well. Then.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. And then Thursday you'll have the Garitano, and then I'll be back on Friday with a guest. And then Sunday we'll do this again, and it's just going to go on and on and on. Because I'm taking a chance and trying to put more effort into this. Losing money, yeah. But is it worth it? We'll see. Hopefully. Here's the thing. And JFA, thank you for that donation. He says, we want another 3 hours. Woo. When you start to go down the rabbit hole on these subjects, you start to come up with a lot of weird questions. But there are theories that you could postulate on that could be, bless you, could be possibly, answers. And then you can go down the rabbit hole yourself and figure it out. But when you start looking at things like what we were talking about earlier, like Kozarev's mirror, and then you start to realize that he believed that bending space and time was possible. And that if somebody visited us, they could come from another world, another dimension. And, when you throw theories out there and you get attacked in these groups, who cares? It's a big nothing burger. Who cares what these people say? Because the bottom line is, at least you're trying to come up with some theories and not just, parroting the same old tired dribble that they've been shoving into us for so long, And it's a fact, too. People think, well, you're a big guy and people are going to listen to you because you're a big guy. Well, why are they doing it now? Because I'm on a show and you're not here because I'm a big guy. That this, in person, I can understand that, but I'm not in person with you. And the other thing too, people tend to think that, because you're big, you that's all you have is your physical, whatever, your physical attributes. And I want to say something in my defense. And like I said, people have jumped me over and over again and accused me like, you're always talking about how big and strong and tough you are. The point is that I am nothing compared to one of these creatures physically. No matter how big and strong you are, you can't stop one of these monsters. I'm telling you. A Squatch or a dog man, it just will rip you apart. You can be 6'4", 360 pounds or whatever, and you could be solid muscle, quick as hell. You can be the fastest human on earth. If they get their hands on you, they'll destroy you. They will absolutely kill you. And that was my point. I was trying to make that point that I am bigger and stronger and faster than a lot of human beings on this earth. Probably 10% of the planet could do something to me. And those are called professional fighters. That's all they do. That's their whole life. And am I foolish enough to believe that I could go up against one of these creatures and have even a slight breath of a chance? No, I'm not. And Anna Holly says, Josh, if one person gives their life to Christ or the knowledge learned saves at least one person's life, it was worth it. I agree. And Corley says, did somebody say burger? Is everybody hungry here in the chat tonight? Like, everybody seems to be like, Joanne Hartnett. Hey, Joanne. She says, Josh, do you think that maybe you or someone in your circle has a jinn in your life? I think everybody does. I think that they're moving in and out of our reality constantly. We're going to get into that next Friday when my guest flies in. He's going to come in. He's going to fly in, and hopefully he'll sit in and we can talk. And we'll see what he says. He talks about a lot. I think it's going to be very interesting. Tune in Friday for that. David Buckholz, what is he saying here? He says 3-dimensional space is bounded by
6 two-dimensional
planes. 6 two-dimensional planes. 4-dimensional space is bounded by 3-dimensional space, so much like I can see everything that exists in 2D picture. Same principles, yes. Well, I get, okay, how do you put that in layman terms? So you're talking about the jinn, okay? Look, what that means, in other words, like what you're trying to say is like, okay, you can see everything on a 2-dimensional page. We've talked about that for those who are uninitiated, and then Anthony explained the 4th density or 4th dimension, by taking a pen and putting it through a piece of paper. Okay, what is happening is you would be surrounded by the 3rd dimension, but you're coming from a 4th dimension, just as we're surrounded by 2-dimensional everything. Like when you look at this in the camera, it just looks 2-dimensional, but then you go, look at that, see, it's 3, and everything is like kind of bound together in a wheel, I guess. I don't know how to describe. How would you describe it? Geometry. I mean,
I would imagine it like if you're looking at 3-dimensional space from a 4th dimensional space. So if you're in a 4th dimensional space and you're observing 3-dimensional space, the best thing that comes to mind immediately is, have you ever seen those photos that have like a fisheye lens and it bends everything around, or like in a hospital setting that they'll have on the ceiling those reflective like half spheres, and you can see like 360 degrees everything around you.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and even that analogy doesn't do it justice, but I think the concept is the same, to where you're able to observe 3-dimensional reality in a way that you can't possibly comprehend.
Well, I think what they specifically were saying though is that you would comparatively see a 3-dimensional from a 4th-dimensional being's perspective, the same way we would look at a 2-dimensional picture and see everything in that picture. So,
right. Because like if you draw a stick figure on a piece of paper,
mm-hmm.
and you put like a square around him, like from his perspective, he's not going to be able to see anything outside of that square. But from our perspective, we can see We can see him, and we can see the square, and
Then we can see the paper.
everything on that page. That's his entire world.
Yeah.
And we can observe that whole. We can observe his whole world just from where we're sitting.
Yeah, and I think
So-
that what that comment was specifically saying, though, is that a fourth dimensional being would see us the same way, is like where we only see what's in front of us, like what we can see with our eyes, where they would see it like, oh, we can see everything around you that you're not able to see with your eyes.
Yeah, who asked that question? Hang on, let me find. Okay, David Buchholz. I do have one question for you, if you wouldn't mind explaining something. Yeah, that's from Adventure Time. We're just being silly. I mean, let me take that off. I put it on there because of the noodle arms that Finn has. Anyway,
He's a strong boy. I don't know what you're talking about.
okay, so David, you said 3-dimensional space is bound by 6 2-dimensional planes. Now, where are you getting the number 6 from? Because
Yeah, I'm not understanding.
the way I perceive a 3-dimensional space is that you have an X plane, then you have a Y plane, and then you have a Z plane. And in the same way that you can locate anything in 3-dimensional space by providing a set of 3 coordinates: X coordinates, Y coordinates, and Z coordinates. So, I mean, so to my understanding, there's 3-dimensional planes, but you're saying there's 6. So I don't know. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind typing up a explanation for that, just so I can get your perspective and understand better what you're talking about.
Explain yourself.
Yeah. I
Don't you
demand
type
an
a bunch of
explanation.
crap on
I
there
want a
and expect us to
dissertation right
understand it?
now on my desk.
We ain't scientists.
Why don't you learnificate me something, boy?
Why aren't you learnificating me?
Let me learn you something.
So what we're dealing with, if somebody comes from a 4th dimensional plane, thank you, Fab Welder. Will your book be out by? Yes, we are hoping so. We're trying. We're cramming. We're trying to get it done. Every minute of every hour of every day, we're trying to get them done. Should be two of them. And maybe that's the problem. I was trying to write 2, but I was just trying to do everything we could. Here's another story I'm going to tell you. And this is an alien abduction, and I got a bunch of them. They're piling up. But this has to do with portals, too. Now, this person was actually abducted by going into a portal. Or no, I'm saying they were abducted and they came out of a portal, which is what I believe is what happened. This is a person who was living in Austria. And I believe they were living in an area, gosh dang it. It was right outside of Vienna. I know that, but it was a small little hamlet, town, whatever. And they had been abducted for a long time. They had been going through abductions. And this person is now in their 50s. And their first abduction experience was they were like 7 years old. And so in 2005, this person was abducted, and they ended up going onto what they believed. This is what they're. Everybody's going to say, "Well, I don't believe this is what happened to them." They don't, whatever. I'm not judging her. I'm not saying that this is what happened to her. I'm just saying this is what was told to us. And that she was abducted and went on to for lack of a better term, a spacecraft. And when this person went onto this spacecraft for like the 20th time in her life, she actually got up off of the table. She became cognizant, because usually she's in this dreamlike state, and I guess whatever they use to hit her with. Here's what's interesting. She believed that it was starting to wear off. And I don't mean just in that one particular incident. I believe that she had been taken aboard so many times that whatever it was that they were giving her. And like, I think when we did the show with Jesus Payan, you know, with me and Barton when we interviewed him. One of the things we talked about, and either it might be on the show, Barton, you're in the chat, you might be able to remind me. It might be on there, or it might be something we talked with him about off camera, because we talked extensively off camera with him too. He was the guy from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, whatever. He's Gonzo is his character. He's an actor. He's been in a few things besides that, and then he's got a Bigfoot channel too. But his abductions, he started to remember them more and more, if I remember correctly. And at one point, they had him doing like calisthenics and stuff like that, which is, it sounds silly. It sounds weird. And like, why would they do that? But, and Tony, you know this, we've heard people talk about this, you know, where they basically make them like perform tasks.
I mean, yeah. Why wouldn't they? They're running all kinds of tests. Like, who could really say what kind of information they're trying to get from us? So it makes sense to me.
And this woman said that, you know, maybe it was just, you know, they had overdone it to the point where she was starting to become cognizant. The time before that, she remembers looking up and seeing one of these grays. They look like grays. And then in the corner, she looks over and sees this black reptilian-looking creature wearing a lab coat. And she thought, what in the heck is that? Like a black Godzilla standing there in a lab coat. It was just a weird experience. But this time, she gets up off the table. She laid there for what must have been hours. She says, I'm like, I get up, and there is a door. I walk over to the door. It slides open sideways, you know, because I guess it's, you know, pressure or whatever. We have those in our, yeah, see, and Barton just answered the question. Yes, and they were surprised that such a big guy passed the test. Yeah, and so the door opens up, and then she walks out, and then she begins to wander around. There's nobody. You know, I guess they just knock him out and leave him sitting there or whatever. So then she begins to wander around on the ship, which she says it's a ship. Hey, Josh, Tony, and Anthony, what do you think about supposed evidence of alien handprints being found with black light after an abduction happening? Well, I don't know. That's a question for another show, Taylor, but I appreciate the donation. Maybe we can get into that one day. There's so much material out there. It's just hard, you know, like we're never going to run out of questions. We're never going to run out of stories. We're never going to run out of material. That's not going to happen. That is just not going to happen. Because like my friend Nick said, that's for people who are very lazy or just not intelligent. Why would you ever stop learning? And then David Buckhold says, hold on, folks, I'll get right back to the story. David Buckhold says, the Grass Titan explains that a cube is three-dimensional. There are 6 sides. Each side is a WD. I was abducted a few days ago. I have bruises all over. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Ania says, don't go there. Okay. Anyways, well, I have to do this. You know. So anyways, this person, she goes, I'm not going to give her name. She wants to be anonymous, and she's Austrian person, originally of Slovakian descent. But it's a very, I guess her dad is Austrian, mother's Slovakian. And so she ended up going onto this ship, and she wandered around. Well, she ended up walking in front of this one door that just opened up as she walked in, and she looked, and she was terrified. She was terrified to go in there because what she saw were all these different types of beings, creatures. It was like a zoo, and it was terrifying. And she's like, but I wanted to go in because curiosity was telling her to go in and check it out and see what the heck it was and what was in there. But then she said that it was terrifying because she didn't know how she was going to like you know, deal with the entities that she saw in there. But she said she walked in because it was just the curiosity took over. And all the years that she'd been being abducted, and I think she said that it was something like 28 years or something like that. It was a long time. And she had been abducted probably for, at least 20 times at this point. And she had never gotten off of the slab. She usually would go right back to sleep because she was whatever. But this time she was groggy but wide awake. And I don't think that was supposed to happen. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's my thing. Is like that's what I would fear. Is like, what if it was? Like, what if this was part of the test? And it's like everything you experience is like, well, what if this is also something they want you to go through? And that's what I would do. I would always be second guessing my actions, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you why, Tony. I don't think this was supposed to happen because what ended up happening, she goes inside. She gets about 10 feet inside, and then these, what looked like cages, became non-existent. Everything looked like it was free. So she screams and gets ready to run out, and then she realizes that there are like, 15, 16 of these creatures, going down 2 rows. And they all, not all of them, but several of them began to like try to bang against their enclosures. And she realized that the enclosures what was keeping them in was invisible. She couldn't see anything that was keeping them in, where before she witnessed some sort of like light bar looking things that were like purplish violet color, whatever. And they were gone. It was just, and she thought, oh my gosh, these creatures are all about to be free. And I'm probably the most diminutive one in here and probably going to be eaten by one of them very quickly. But all it was them smashing against. But there were some that she said were not doing anything. They were just sitting there calmly. And I would say that those are the more balanced ones, probably. The creatures that were more intelligent, and they knew that this was just, they're just not showing you the enclosure, but you're still locked up. And she said she got the nerve to go in and look, and she said, I didn't see very many. And she said she turned and she looked on both sides, and both sides, right to left, left to right. And she saw one in particular that was kneeled down and like almost like he was praying, and his legs were crossed, and he was like this, just sitting there. And she said that he had a bald head, and when he looked up at her, he just kind of yawned, and she saw the biggest fangs she'd ever seen on any human creature from any story. And then he closed his mouth, and it looked like his jaw had just opened wide, like a snake's almost. And she said that he had like wings. And right then, this entity came and got right in front of her. She said he looked like an insectoid mixed with like a gray. And I said, what does that mean? What do you mean insectoid mixed with a gray alien? And she said it was like a creature, like one of the grays that you see, that like spliced with like a mantis looking creature. And he was about 6 foot tall, but he wasn't real skinny and diminutive. He was muscular. And she said that this thing asked her, what the heck do you think you're doing in here? And she's like, I'm sorry, I wandered off. So he didn't grab her and try to like push her or anything. He just like gently put his hand on her arm and said, come with me. You need to leave. This is unstable phenomena. Told her like in her mind. So she walked down the hallway. When they got back to where she was supposed to be, he says, lay down on the table. We'll get you out of here shortly and you can leave. She estimates about 2 hours go by, and these 2 gray-looking aliens come walking in, and they're with a human-looking guy with shoulder-length hair who walks in, and he's like wearing like these white robes, cloak, whatever you want to call it. And he tells her, he says, what did you see in there? And she told him. And he's like, okay. He's like, she goes, what is this place? What are these? He told her. He's like, these are creatures that we are studying. They are not part of our group, whatever. They don't belong to our, I forgot how he worded it, there was a name he used, our union or whatever. And she was like, well, what are they? She's like, from different places. And she said, are they from Earth? And he said, oh, yeah. A lot of them are, not all of them. But he said that one in particular was a very dangerous being that was capable of infecting your planet. And she's like, what do you mean by that? And what he said was, these creatures live within your Earth. They don't come out very often because the sunlight affects them and can even kill them. But she said that these things are capable of spreading a disease. And she said, what do you mean? She said, well, they were originally from another plane of existence, and they made home within the Earth, and they arrived on your planet, like, I think she said like 3 million years ago or some crazy number. And they live within the Earth in like a hive. But they do occasionally come out because they know that they aren't supposed to, and that's forbidden even for them to do it, you know? Because if they get caught by the sunlight, they can be killed. And when one of them is hurt, the others feel it. So they kind of regulate each other. But at one point in time, they had actually come out in the Middle East. This happened in the Middle East, according to, he showed on a map, and he said that there was an entire area. She said it was the northern Levant. Now go look up Levant. I'm not going to have time to explain all that. But she said that they wiped out like 3 cities. 3 cities going back like 12,000 years ago. Like they just completely wiped out the inhabitants, turning them from human into what these creatures call a subspecies. And then eventually they had to be hunted down and eradicated by this federation of aliens or whatever the heck they are. And he said that you know them. What do you think they are, Tony?
Vampires.
Vampires. She also saw a wolf-like, werewolf-looking creature that was slamming itself against a cage. She asked about that, and she's like, I thought I saw a werewolf. And he kind of laughed, and he's like, well, that's one way to call it. You can call that's one name for it. And it has the ability to change its shape. But it is a human, person, and that particular creature is a human that can do this. And it uses the type of high magic, which is what she was explaining to her. And then there's others that use illusory. And so, he was explaining these things to her. Then he tells her, now I'm going to put you to sleep and you're not going to remember any of this anyway. So she says, okay. She goes to sleep, and she asks other questions too. I mean, there's more to it. She wakes up, and she just hears this door open. That door we hear, that sliding door. She walks out, and she's in the middle of the woods, but she's not far from her town. So she has to walk about a mile into the town. She looks back, and she sees this black whatever with just like the shimmering looking whatever. So she kind of walks back over to it and gets a good look at it. And guess what? It looks very similar to what the 2 gentlemen that I talked about earlier, what they saw. Now, she didn't say she went around the side and inspected it and all that. She's walking around barefoot in a nightgown in the middle of the night. So she turned around and walked out. The one thing that stuck with her, though, is she says, I remembered everything from the point I woke up. And she says, I dared not say anything. The next time she got abducted, she said it was about 6 months later. She was coming home from work, and then she had missing time, and she woke back up in her car, and her shirt was on backwards and everything. This cost her 2 marriages. All this stuff that they've done to her tore her life apart, these beings. She suffered immensely. And eventually, she was like at home, she said, I was taking a shower and I was crying because it was very emotional whenever something would happen. It all started coming back to her. Then when she went to sleep, she took medication, went to sleep, she had a nightmare, what she thought was a nightmare, and she woke up and she was remembering everything. And they had questioned her. So one of the things that they asked her, they were very adamant about it. They wanted the truth. They said, "Do you remember your encounter with us?" And she says, "No." Somebody says that metal door, Corley Cantor, door sound is heard in several paranormal encounters, including Martin Groves LBL encounter. Yes. Whenever she went back into her memory, she had a psychiatrist that she was confiding in that took a serious interest in this. And he helped her. He didn't go, "Well, you're crazy." And then she said in Europe, it's not as just, it's kind of taken for granted, some of these myths and legends, but that's mostly in the East, in Eastern Europe. In Western Europe, they don't accept this stuff. It's not, one of our friends from Sweden, remember Anthony, they said, we don't talk about this.
Yeah.
They were on the show, I believe. But she said, we just don't talk. People don't talk about it.
Well, I think they said they're more to themselves, right? More reserved, and they just keep that kind of stuff to themselves, and they don't really share it or whatever.
But what happened to this woman, it's not an isolated thing. This isn't, and believe it or not, this isn't she wasn't the first person to tell me they've seen some sort of menagerie in a building. Now, on a ship, we don't know if it was a ship because she came out of a portal. We don't know what the heck it was. I mean, and guys, if you go to the conference, there's not just going to be dogman cryptid people there. There's going to be ghost people there, and there's going to be UFO people. Talk to Daniel Jones and Nick Redfern. They got a ton of. I was gearing up about 6-7 months ago to do a series of interviews with them involving alien abduction, but I got real busy and I couldn't, get to it. But me and Redfern and Daniel Jones were getting ready to do it and get it going. But I just had so much going on, and that's my fault. I apologize. I just got extremely busy, and Daniel's got his own thing going, and so does Nick Redfern. Nick Redfern writes books constantly. He's got deadlines to meet, and he couldn't wait around. I couldn't get work. Is just a constant. I live for the day when I don't have to do, and I can just do this, and maybe we can get more out of all this. But this particular woman, she's like, this psychiatrist believed her. He started helping her, and he started regressing her, and he took her to a regressionist from Italy. This person was Italian place. And this Italian regressionist helped her and got her to go back over multiple encounters with, and one of the things that she regressed that happened to her, which was just absolutely terrifying, was that she was put inside of a cage with one of these creatures. And, if it was me, I would have probably just fallen over, fainted dead. Because it was this, you all right? It was this spider-looking creature that kind of unfolded itself and began to crawl around the cage. And they were like watching it to see if it was going to attack her. After they had sprayed her with some kind of weird chemical. And so it just kind of ran away from her. And so it was so bizarre and so weird. And she didn't remember any of it until the regression. And now Scorpion here in the chat, and me and him, we talked to a woman years ago because he worked with her, and she told us some horrific things that had happened to her. And so, I don't know. These beings we're like insects to them. They don't care. They don't give a crap.
Guinea pigs.
Yeah, we're guinea pigs. But I was told by multiple people. One was a Buddhist shaman who told me that I was he told me that I was abductable. I guess I don't meet the criteria. I'm not cool enough, or I don't know what the heck is, what their deal is, why they don't choose me, but whatever. You know, maybe for the same reason that, you know, I go and I don't get hit on at the gym. I don't know. I'm always like, nobody? Nothing? Not even a, you know, sideways glance? Nothing? Start walking by people at the gym. You know,
Don't mind me as I flex.
you go to Massage Envy and afterwards you're like, I don't want it, but you could at least offer. Okay, screw you.
You got to show up in one of those little bodybuilder Speedos and nothing else. Get yourself all oiled up, glistening.
You know, at least, I mean, somebody, you know, tell me I'm handsome, you know, and whatever. I guess I'm not. But you know, I'm joking, folks. I don't want people to hit on me or whatever. I'm not. Everybody knows that. I'm pretty laid back when it comes to that. TRC, just put it into words. Please offer, but pass. Yes, exactly. But you could at least offer, you know. Now I've had people come up to me and be like, you look like somebody who does drugs. You want some crack? And I'm like, no, thank you. Trying to cut back. New Year's resolution. Sorry. You know, it's not that I want to do, you know, just, but at least if somebody would say, hey, you look abductable, you know, I'd take you on my ship and, you know, do experiments on you. I don't want you to, because that would be bad for both of us. I'm pretty sure it would not end well. Probably end up with someone or something being hurt, possibly me, and maybe after someone else was hurt, maybe then I'd be killed or something. I don't know.
I could understand that. Like if I saw a vampire and they were like, I don't want to eat you. Never mind. I'd feel a little offended.
Yeah, like, where you go? Dude, come back. At least
like,
threaten me.
Like, what's wrong with my blood?
They show up and they just grab one of y'all and take off. Wait, we just wanted him. You're too heavy. We don't want you. It's whatever. You know, I look at it like I've had situations. I could tell you all kinds of stuff about that whole alien abduction thing that I really probably can't talk about on the air. Is why I want to make a channel on an alternate platform just to talk about the things that we can't talk about on here. I may have to do that. But I'm trying to see how well the Patreon does, to see if we have people that are that interested, you know, in what I have to say. One of the things, though, that stuck with me about this person's abduction scenario, and I've heard, you know, a bunch of them, a lot of them, hundreds of them. But hers in particular, though, the things that went on, you know, going into, you know, this enclosure with this creature that they were trying to see if this, the only thing I could think of was that they sprayed it with some kind of repellent to see if this thing wouldn't hurt her. And she, you know, I said it was a spider. She goes, not really. It was like a spider, but it was like some sort of like an alien spider. You would not, you know. And she was horrified. She just sat in the corner crying, and this thing kind of stayed away from her. But she was like, I don't know what I would do. I would be extremely pissed at the people who did it. Thank you, Ania, for that donation. We appreciate it very greatly. I wonder about, you know, what this person, you know, like what is her psyche like going to bed at night, you know, knowing that at any time these people could come and get you. You know, and I had the woman who was abducted, and then when she went to the Poconos, I've told this story on the show, and I got to take these out, they hurt my eyes, but she was talking about being abducted by the reptilians and how she was just brutally beaten by them, you know, whatever. For no reason, really, just other than they despise us and they like to be abusive and mean. And then there was another one a story that I read from somewhere where a woman the Greys had to sit there and like basically fight with the reptilians to keep them from killing her. And that's a bad night whenever the Greys are trying to champion in your life. I mean, they're pretty non-caring, but they were just like, no, not on our ship. And I don't know, maybe because they didn't want her to die on the ship. And the reptilian eventually killed one of the Greys, and then she got away. But, gosh, dang, man, you're sitting there going like, dude, what is going on here? The truth be told, though, I don't believe I've ever been abducted. I don't believe I ever will. I don't believe it. I don't believe that certain people it can happen to them. I just do not. I think that certain people are immune. I'm not opening it up going, hey, I challenge you. I'm not going to wave my shirt around and go, is there a ghost shooter who wants to fight? Come on, man. Show yourself. No. That's not what I'm saying, and I'm not tempting them to come and do something to me.
That's why I don't get, though, because, like, from how they were treating her, it kind of seemed like they were just using her for tests. And, like, you wouldn't choose someone specifically just if you were going to perform a bunch of tests on them, would you? I mean, would you, like, choose a very specific rat out of the bunch and be like, I just wanted to perform tests on this one rat?
Yeah,
Well,
because...
actually, that's exactly what you would do.
It's exactly what
Because,
you would do.
I mean, like, we don't know exactly what they're testing for. That they might need someone with a specific blood type or genetic condition or whatever. I mean, like, we don't know what they're trying to research.
I just find it curious because basically it sounded like they were trying to test, obviously, some kind of chemical or whatever that could repel these creatures. And if these creatures are found within the earth, that means that they're trying to find something within the earth. So it just seemed weird that they would need someone very specific for that. But I guess it would have something to do with how their makeup is, I guess, whatever.
Maybe that the way that material they were testing reacts is dependent on the pH of someone's skin, or so. I mean, there could just be a multitude of factors that we're just not equipped to say.
Well, Ania pointed out, she says, I have a very specific blood type.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen UFO 3 times. 3 times. I don't like doing this because that means some kind of whatever, but 3 times. Every time was, in the last 5 or 6 years. And it was always the same, just a BB in the sky. I've never been afraid of it or thought that it would happen. I think it's different for everybody. My sister had something that was like a BB up her nose. I think I've talked about that before. That's her. It's not me. And I do believe that one night I was visited by something in my room, but I don't think they took me or did anything. Because I just know they didn't. But I've had tons of spiritual encounters. But that's really what we are when you get down to it. We're just spirits. I don't know what these things are. I don't live my life in fear of them. I don't live my life in fear of any of it. You can't. I used to be afraid, of the dog man because it was just like a demonic oppression thing that would come around at certain times, and I felt its presence more than once. And I don't mean the haunted tower where I saw it in the haunted tower. That was something mimicking my fear, but I learned to overcome the fear. I'm not afraid anymore. I don't give a crap. Can they kill you? Yes, more than likely. Will they? That depends.
Well, a lot of things can kill you. So.
But imagine being taken, and then you have to live with somebody who doesn't believe you. Her first husband was physically abusive, to the point when she would talk about what went on, he would just beat her up. I'm not kidding. I mean, this is what she told me. It's a horrific thing. Not only are you being taken against your will by these things, but then when you try to confide in the person that's supposed to love you, he would get mad and start screaming, well, what do you want me to do about it? And then beat her up.
Yeah, so you're just getting abused from both worlds, you know.
And then I had a guy who was a child who was being abducted since he was a kid, and when he would tell his mom and dad, he would get spanked.
That's the worst is having people in your life, but when those people make you feel alone, at that point, it's better just to actually be alone.
Well, I mean, when you stop and think about it, you know, these people who go through this, like, you know, and I had another guy that we interviewed, and Anthony, you probably remember this one. The guy said that he was being punished constantly because he kept pointing out the ghost.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, dude, you stop lying. So they beat him to stop lying. And he's like, I'm not lying. I'm seeing a ghost. And it's in my house. It's in our house. You're scaring your brother and sister. And then when they started talking about it, look what you did. You made your brother and sister see ghosts. I wish I could say that the ghost hit his dad upside the head with an iron, but it didn't happen. Thanks a lot, ghost. You could have done something. Instead, you just spooked around scaring people. No. But anyway, folks, you know, I just, this story, there's more to it, and we can get into it more and more. But it is what it is, and it's a sad reality that there are people out there that go through this. They go through this abduction scenarios, and luckily she found someone that was willing to help her, who believed in her. But then, unfortunately, that individual, it cost him his marriage because his wife became concerned that he was spending too much time with her. And then she basically helped ruin her second marriage. So this woman has just been through hell. Quantum Potential says, how much do I bench? I've been asked that question multiple times. I actually posted it on Facebook, dude. Anytime I say anything about my physical prowess, I get absolutely lambasted. People just send me tons of hate. I mean, I'm not joking. I posted a video of me hitting a speed bag. What are you trying to prove? You think you're tough, huh? You think you're tough? And then they get all the dudes, man. They go nuts. They get so mad. Or I had a guy who was the husband of a wife that liked my show, and he started challenging me. Well, you think you're tough, huh? What are you doing? Why you trying to mess with me or what? Huh? You think you're tough? Yeah, no, sir. Scorpion, last I heard, well, Scorpion, you actually were there when I did 600, so I don't know why you would say last you heard. Never hit 700, but I'm pretty sure I could do it. Yeah, I did 580. That's true. Scorpion just said it on there.
Phil, 30 pounds.
30 pounds. Thank you, Phil. Go back to your chocolate trees. Gary says, last I saw was 585 3 times. Yes, I actually did that. I did 585 pounds 3 times. And none of this crap where you bounce it real quick and arch your back and use your legs. No, dude. No. And then I did the flies. I believe we took a video. It was 660, wasn't it, Anthony?
Yeah.
I did 660, and I've done 880 on squats. I mean, the leg press, people, it makes me laugh when they did. They put all the weight on the leg press. Who cares, dude? I put all the weight on the leg press, and then 2 of my friends that weighed like 250 apiece, and just, you know. But when you're 47 years old, who gives a crap? Nobody, what am I doing? I'm not going for a strongman competition, and I'm not trying to, you know. So I promised my wife that I would stop lifting really heavy weight and then posting videos of it. Because for whatever reason, it made people angry. And then it didn't with my weightlifting friends, because I have friends that I lift weights with, and I'm kind of a gym rat, you know. And then I have friends that I used to train with, you know, and do mixed martial arts and things like that, and they're impressed by it. But, you know, it's like those guys don't even really pay attention to this part of my life. It's like Lyle Blackburn. He's got his Ghoul Town. His Ghoul Town audience doesn't really care about his books. You know, just like my fight buddies don't care about the show. They're like, oh yeah, he does a paranormal show or whatever. You know, I'm just Wolf. You know, they call me Wolf and that's it. It's like Ed Brown. You know, he's your coach. You know, he was a Olympic. What's it called?
Mr. Olympia.
Mr. Olympia, whatever it is, he won. And we just talk, and he's just like, you know, he worked out with Ronnie Coleman and Lee Priest and all those guys. I mean, you know, or like Eric, you know, he's got the prank channel. You know, Eric, I used to work out with him. And, you know, he's big, and he almost, what was the guy that played the Mountain? What was his name? Not the Mountain, Eddie Hall. He was talking to Eddie Hall the other day on one of his shows, and it's funny because, like, I know a lot of the same people that Eddie knows, but I don't know Eddie. Just like Joe Rogan, I run into some of the same fighters and people that he knows, but I don't know Joe. You know, I'd love to meet the guys, but I don't have time to make it a priority. You know, but I've met a lot of the same people. We know a lot of the same people. But being strong physically is great, whatever. But you know, at the end of the day, what are you doing with it? I mean, I'm not trying to. Well, I did lift the back end of a truck once. Oh, we got stuck in Port Aransas. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Tell them about that. That's a crazy story.
We were driving on the beach, you know, in the truck, and at some point we just got the back end stuck in the dirt. So Anthony goes out there and tries his best, but you know it wasn't enough. So Wolf had to step out the truck, even with his ailing health, and pick up the truck and basically push it back all the way off and do it all by himself, basically, while me and Anthony were kind of there just sitting there trying to help him. Point is that you basically did most of it by yourself, pushing that whole truck out of the sand.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. We got stuck. Because we were driving and we ended up in like what felt like quicksand.
Well, I mean, we do it a lot whenever we're down there. Just take a drive while, you know, drinking a little bit, hanging out. But I didn't have the, no, I wasn't drinking. No, yeah.
I didn't have the 4x4 at that time. And so we got stuck in the sand and I had to go and push the truck out. So that's where the strength came in handy. You know, but,
Monkey Boy says, I can bench press more than Gary Coleman every day.
Coleman. Well, it takes.
What about
strokes.
Webster? I bet you can't outbench Webster.
Different strokes, folks. If you get the joke, you get it. It's funny though because like when you're dealing with, and my point to make to these people was that if you're from around here, you know all these things about me. You probably heard about it, but if you're not from around here, you're not going to know that. And I don't care. I mean, you know. Barton worked out with me. Barton's in the chat. He just tell him what it's like working out with me, Barton. You know, I don't play around. I just have this thing where I tried to explain to people, dude, it doesn't really matter how physically strong you are when it comes to these creatures, these whatever the heck they are. You don't have a chance. And it's just like, you know, I try to tell people that and they think I'm just tooting my own horn.
Yeah, I don't know where people get that idea because those same people, if you asked them if they would take on like a grizzly bear or a silverback gorilla, that they'd tell you that no, you're crazy. But when it comes to supernatural, like cryptids, like Dogman and Bigfoots, for some reason that same logic doesn't apply.
Scorpion, oh yeah, Scorpion says I remember trying to get a Jeep or something that was hanging over a ledge in a parking lot. That was behind the Roxy. Yeah, we would have never gotten it back on the correct level without Wolf's help. I ended up having to lift that car. It was it wasn't a car. It was a small SUV. Well, not a small SUV. It was like a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and they had come off of the, you know, those two parking lots behind Roxy. And one of them's got that like that 2 foot. Well, they had fallen over the top of it. And I ended up having to like lift that up, you know, and put it back in place. But, you know, that's where strength comes in handy, you know, but otherwise, what good does it do to be able to deadlift all this weight and lift all this weight? What does it matter? It doesn't really matter. What is Barton talking about? No, low Joe, the escaped double murderer.
Yeah, I was looking at
came
that.
to my town, drowned.
Oh, him and Phil asked him about someone who had who had escaped or something, and he said that he tried to swim across the Ohio River, I think, and drowned,
Wow.
running from the cops, I guess.
Well, if a murderer drowns and he drowns, that's what he gets. Shouldn't be killing people and running from the cops. And Humanoids with Barton Nelly says, don't remind me. Well, I took Barton to the gym, and Barton started out really well. He did like, we do an exercise called we do a workout called the 14 exercise. I do 40 now. No bull crap. I was in on upper body. My legs are just shot to heck right now because of the gout that was in my knee. So I'm still trying to recover. But the 14 exercises are three back, three chest, 3 shoulders, 3 tries, and then 2 buys. I don't do that anymore. I do 8-8-8. I do 8 chest, shoulders, and back, and then I do 10 triceps and 6 biceps. That is a standard workout for me. And those are exercises. Now, on each exercise, there's all I'm going to say about it, and we'll get back to the paranormal. But on each one of those exercises, I do 3 sets of 20. Okay? Like if I do incline, I'll on a certain machine or free weights, whatever I'm doing, I will do 3 sets of 20. I like to do this one with his triple grips, and the closest one's like this. And when you're lifting, it's like this. And then you go out further, and it really hits the triceps and the chest and then this part of your shoulders. It's a really hard exercise, but I do it, and I do 3 sets of 20 on each grip. And sometimes that's just the beginning of my routine, and then I'll go in and I'll do all these other things. But if anybody's interested in ever really learning my routine, I can maybe video a little bit of it and send it to you. So you can. But Barton did the 14 exercise. Nearly killed him. And Barton's a pretty strong guy. He's pretty in shape for his age, and that from not really actually lifting weights, he just had a very physically demanding job.
But he pushed through and finished it, which is a lot more than we can say for some other people who tried it. People half his age.
Throwing up like sissies.
Yeah. Going and sitting down. I'm done.
I like working out because I can tune out the entire world and every problem and everything I have and just focus on survival in that moment. I focus on survival, believe me.
It's also important for mental health. It's not just some meathead thing. Mm-hmm. Taking care of your physical health has a direct impact on your mental health. But it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. Just because you're taking care of your mental health, which is very good, it's not doing anything for your physical health.
Yeah, but it does keep me from going out and killing people. Now, one night, I did have to smack a dude because he decided that he wanted to get mad and want to threaten my nephew over here because he wouldn't let him in the gym.
Yeah, he was real mad at me.
Mm-hmm. And then we ended up going to the store, and he shows up. I had done legs, and I could barely move them. And so it resulted in me smacking him about the face, breast, chest, neck, and head area.
Yeah, he saw me too. As soon as I got out the truck and started coming towards me, all mad. He was still mad because I didn't want to let him in the gym.
Was he eating Skittles or M&Ms or something? He was like,
yes.
And he just and he took his drink pile from Full Metal Jacket, and he was very angry. He was a very, very angry individual. But go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say we don't pay some small fee to go to that gym. It's pretty expensive, so I'm not just gonna let some random guy in and jeopardize my membership.
It's $40.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you get the annual plan, but if you go month to month, it's like $60.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Jeez. And I'm not gonna lie, we get treated pretty good there because I'm friends with.
Barton says first time in a gym and last.
Rob, the owner, it's Big Tex. He's a really nice guy, and we get away with a little bit more than most people, I think, because I don't know. I get treated a little differently in places. I mean, I try to be a nice guy, and I've promoted and helped them. I do. They also sponsor melee fights. Black Sheep is where we were training at, to box. where these guys were going. Great coaches, great guys. Shout out to Josh Scales, Max Williams, Coach Scipio, Jeff Meadows, Allison Wood. All of y'all are amazing people, great people, helping people in the community too. People that need that. And if you ever live, if you live in the Austin area, or you want to just train or whatever, those are the people to teach you. Also, honorable mention, I guess, Sean over at Sean Cooper does a great job. Great jiu-jitsu coach. Rodrigo at Fight Factory, another great guy. I know a lot of the fighters in Austin. I mean, and some people they want the mantle of being a fighter just so they could say they were fighters. So they hype themselves up. I know one guy who's like 2-16 as a pro fighter. He's a little turd, and he still to this day likes to try to run me down. He stalks my stuff, but I've tried to fight him multiple times and he won't do it. I'm always like, he just turned black belt recently in jiu-jitsu. I said, put your money where your mouth is. Let me beat you up. He's not going to let me, but that's what's going to happen. I'm going to beat the hell out of him. But other than him, I really don't have any problems with people right now. I'm trying to be chill and trying to be a good guy. So enough talk of weightlifting and talking about all this other stuff. One last thing I was going to tell you folks before we get out of here. Don't forget to tune in on Tuesdays. Don't forget to tune in on Thursdays. We probably have enough material to just keep going, but I need feedback from you. I need to know what you want to do. Okay? And that is the key, because if your guys are going to show up and put 500 people in the chat room, then I'm going to show up. And I appreciate the donations too. Brooke, thank you for that donation. But, if I'm going to come up here for, 150 people and, nobody's really into it or whatever, and then, here dude lifting heavy is bad for the joints. Sure is. If you do too much heavy lifting, it can be really bad for your joints. That's why I do moderate weight.
Yeah, Wolf doesn't. The weight that Wolf uses is heavy for me, and it would be heavy for
normal people.
Yeah, for the average Joe, but it's not heavy for him. I mean, you can't lift heavy weight for 20 reps.
Yeah, your max weight is his, basic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Nellie was with me the other day, and she's like, that's too much. And I said, look, I could do it. Like, it's easy. Like if I get on there and I literally take 225, I can do 225, and I'm not joking. I can do 225 pounds on a straight bench. I don't like doing it because it's bad for your rotator cuff, but I could do it 40 times without stopping. And I could take like a 30-second break and go do another 20. But that's not for normal people to do. And it's unusual to be as quick as I am. And I posted videos of me hitting speed bag. I'm not playing around. Like, you see that it's speed. And it doesn't matter what I say or do, people are going to talk trash. They're going to be like, well, yeah, you think you're tough. Fight some of the people I have and just completely annihilated them. And then you tell me what you can do. Because some of these guys that I fought were bad dudes, and I'm not joking around. And when we got down to brass tacks, it was just men and boys. And a lot of them are my friends now. And they'll tell you, they've told y'all. Was it D Butcher? I mean, his nickname is D Butcher. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, we saw him over at our Ashes bar. He's a big old dude, big brother. And he told you straight up. He unprompted. I didn't go, hey, tell him what happened.
No.
You were outside talking to Deuce, who's a boxing coach and a former Bellator fighter champion. And he told Anthony, he's like, yeah, I got into it with this guy, and he beat the crap out of me. He's a very big African-American guy. He's a friend of mine now. He was former drill sergeant from Killeen, Fort Hood. We got into it at the club, and he didn't get a lick on me.
Yeah, and I mean, like, to his credit, he wasn't ashamed of it, because he was just like, your uncle here is the only man who's ever knocked me clean on my butt.
Yeah, but he said, ass. But the bottom line is, I mean, like, he started something, and I finished it. He hit Clay, one of my friends, and I had to do something. I couldn't stand there and go, well, it was my job. I didn't do this because I wanted to go out and fight. I was good at what I did. But, I mean, you know, I get no credit for that nowadays in this arena. But one of my friends the other day was telling me, he's like, dude, he goes, the people that talk crap, they don't know you like we do. And you can't expect them to know that. And you don't know them like they don't know me like they do. And I know some people get anxiety when they hear about violence and things like that, you know.
So this guy has an interesting comment. Northern Mexicano says, I got a lot of real stories about brujeria, Santa Muerte, etc. out here in Sinaloa. Make sure you send those stories to the email address at the top of the screen. That's joshturner@prtpodcast.com, so Wolf can get into them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you send me your stories and then we can get into it, we can chat. And I'm behind, of course. I always try to make time. And there's people who send me stories that really get into it. I'm gonna throw one more at you before I bell. This is weird, and I was gonna save these for one about the desert, because the desert is a foreboding place and it's very creepy and it's a lot of weird stuff. And this one comes out of the desert, the Sinaloan desert, out in the middle of nowhere. And I'll tell you this one. It ties into some. I was going to do one about where my wife's from, the Antelope Valley, because I started realizing that I got one out of Palmdale, a couple of them, the Mojave Desert, and then I got the High Desert, basically. And I got one out of, what's it called, Lancaster. This is California, and then Cal City, and then another one going out near Needles. And this one was really weird, and it was basically a chupacabra. I guess a chupacabra is why But this thing came running out underneath somebody's car as they were driving in the Sinaloan area, and they ended up like hitting it and running it over. And they're like, "What was that?" Let's just say these guys were not the kind of guys that are going to be like, "Oh, I'm scared. There's something under the car." They get out basically armed to the teeth, you know, ready to shoot the crap out of whatever, to make unalive whatever was maybe still alive under the car. And they walk around the car, and this thing is like pulling itself up with an arm behind the car, like where the trunk was at, and its arm was stretched out. They saw the body like move up underneath with the arm, right? Like the arm was elongated, yeah. Once it got out from underneath the car, it was green with scales and spikes on its back with a round bulbous head and red eyes. Doesn't that sound like a chupacabra? That sounds like a stereotypical chupacabra.
Yeah, that's nasty looking.
Once it came out from under, they realized that one of its legs had been pulled off and that its body was twisted. And I've heard a story like this from Puerto Rico, from a rancher that told me he worked with us, me and Scorpion, and he told me and my friend Jermaine, and Jermaine was like, dude, he'd already heard it. They were working at the Borden factory, whatever, doing security, and I was working at a water treatment place, whatever, at the time. And he says, tell him the story about, you know, what you saw, whatever. So this guy tells me this story. We're there in the office getting our checks at this company I used to work for years ago. Very similar. The way that these things can move and twist, and they're very much like shapeshifters. And this thing was up underneath it, and it pulled his arm, it pulled itself out. This guy's name was Carlos. He told me this story. And he was like 29-year-old guy. Now he's like in, you know, his late 40s, whatever. He's like, I'll never forget it, man. And he goes, and we started shooting. And then my friend starts screaming. He's like, dude, you're shooting my car. He's shooting their... And so this thing just kind of was like jerking around, you know, undulating, whatever. And one of its legs was missing. And then literally before their eyes, like this snake-like thing came out from where the leg should have been. And it was like triangular. And then it just started sprouting like a foot. And it got up and just took off into the desert. And the leg that was there just kind of like started like vibrating and kind of just melted into the ground. And they were just stunned, like, what was that, dude? And of course, his friend Chewy was like, dude, you just shot up my car.
Was it being affected by the bullets, or?
Yeah, it was like slithering around, but it wasn't stopping it. You know, and so there's a lot of weird stories that come out of Mexico. I've gotten a bunch lately, as of late, you know, because people have figured out that, you know, a lot of people they don't want to retell anything that's not in the States, or, you know, in somewhere. But like, dude, what does it matter? I mean, these things are all over the freaking world. Why limit yourself to one place? You know, that's one thing I applaud about the IDP. You know, they actually are trying to get Dogman stories from all over the world, not just focusing on North America or whatever the heck. I think international Dogman is a lot better than North American Dogman because you can, I mean, why focus on just one area?
Yeah.
I mean, these things aren't limited to North America. But yeah, it was weird. And he said, dude, it was like and his cousin, shout out to his cousin, Jason, for sending that to me and getting this guy to correspond with me. And all it was an email. I didn't talk to him, but he was kind enough to send me that story. And he's like, dude, we scared the crap out of us. You know, I mean, just running it over like that, I think, you know, he's like, it should have been dead. And knowing that something like that exists and can run around out there, now that begs
take
the
that
question,
much damage too.
Well, it begs the question: like, is this the chupacabra that we hear about and that came from Puerto Rico originally and ended up and we talked about that on one of the lives about how they were in Cuba and then they were sold to these narcos who ended up taking them, you know, back to Mexico. You know, and these dudes, you know, they're bandidos. You know, they're doing what they're doing. You know, and you know, he said, dude, one of his friends, it was that he practiced Santa Muerta. They worship the Saint of Death, and he said that this thing is like a bad omen. Something bad happens, and they're all like, "Nice mentiras, you know, stop being afraid," you know, whatever. But que carajo, you're scared, man. You know, whatever. You're crazy in your mind. And then what ended up happening? 2 weeks later, he was killed in a motorcycle wreck. And then he said, we never should have shot at this thing. Now, you got to wonder, is that his belief in that caused him to die? Or did something actually happen? Was it a curse? Antonio Bandido El Chupacabra Guapo. What? Anyways, you know, that's it for tonight, folks. Just be safe out there and be looking for new episodes. We're pumping them out. We're taking the time to try to interview people. I got some stuff in the works. We're about to do some more Hernandez Ranch. Waiting for an individual to be available so that we can talk to him and I can get his story and probably retell it. I got a guy who wants to tell his story, but I think it'll be really hard because I think the swearing would be, I think it would be a bit too much. And I don't know how much Anthony wants to edit, this person, you know, I mean, it would be nice in a perfect world that everybody could just come in. And I always offer that anybody who's talked to me, I said, do you want to tell your story? And if they do, they do. But it's a lot of times people don't, and it's no offense to people, but I've retold people stories that I've heard them tell on other shows, and I would much rather just tell it because, you know, sometimes when a person's not the best speaker, it takes away from it a little bit. And people are like, oh, I want to hear firsthand encounters, whatever. Well, there's a few shows that do that, and when you hear these people talk, you're like, at least for my money, I'm like, I don't want to hear this person tell the story. It's a good story, but people don't always talk well.
Well, they don't have a goal. I mean, like, I feel like sometimes they have an idea of how the story should go, but they don't have a goal of figuring out exactly how to pinpoint each event correctly to where it all flows together and it makes sense in a story context. When I think that's what your skill is, and that's why I think people enjoy giving you all those stories, because you're able to take what they give you, no matter how scattered or how, you know, difficult it is to extract the information from, you're still able to do it, then retell it in a way that matches up with how they imagine how they would say it in their mind. So I think that's why they enjoy giving it to you.
Yeah. Wendy Eater says, Wolf, we need some zombie stories. They're everywhere. Now, if you go back and you listen to mine and David's chat on Friday, go back and check that out. Because David's, he told he had a lot of good stories. He told a lot of good stories, a lot of good information. He's a wealth. That man is a wealth of knowledge. I love chatting it up with him, and just it's amazing. Him and Barton, and I could just talk forever. Steve Stockton's another one too. Actually, they're all good guys. I don't have a bunch in this field. The people that I associate with, they're pros. They know what they're doing. They're good. When I talk with Josh Sinocchio or Tony Merkel, any of these guys, it just goes on and on. We could talk forever. But here's the one thing about the whole zombie thing. There's a fine line between these vampiric creatures and these zombie creatures, and it is really weird. And David talked about that, how these vampires in the old Eastern European traditions were like bloated zombie corpses that would rise up and kill people and drink blood. Far cry from this sparkly BS that we get, so we'll do one. Y'all email me. Don't be afraid to email me because I read the emails. I mean, I may not have time to go and tell your story, and there's no offense to you because some of your stories are amazing. I have so much other stuff I got to do. And folks, you got to remember, I have another job I got to do, and I just started a new venture, because I got to make money. I can't sit on my laurels. I can't rest on my laurels and go, oh, I'm going to whatever. And I got books coming out too that I got to finish. So Phil Stern says the Strogoi. Yes. Yes, Phil, the Strogoi are very bad creatures. They could come and drink your blood, and if maybe you drink a lot of vodkas and they get drunk and fall over, then maybe you escape or die. Who knows? In Soviet Union, life, death, same thing. Both suffer. But the point is though is that it's these zombies, or vampires. Who knows? Like we talked about on the show, the Moldavian belief that if you're a werewolf, you die, you become a vampire. And how you become a werewolf is even convoluted because it's like a black dog that bites you. Go back and listen to it. We talk about it with David on Friday. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everybody that donated. We went 3 hours tonight. We weren't planning on it. We did 5 hours last Sunday, and this is just an extra show.
And it seems like it's a good idea because we keep repeatedly getting about 500 people even on Sunday. So
we didn't quite hit 500 today. We hit 499, I think.
Well, I mean, it's around there. Well, it shows that we're doing good enough to where it's working. Well, people are enjoying it.
Ourselves on the back until we're getting 1,000 people in the chat. How about that?
Well,
we'll get there eventually. It's just a matter of time.
See, people like you and your generation, Tony. Look, Tony laughing at me. You laugh at me, man, but I'm telling you, man, if you ever decide, hey, I've made it, I'm where I need to be, then that's when you know you're not. I'm not happy with just, a few hundred people in the chat. Do I appreciate you being in the chat? Heck yeah, absolutely, hell yes. But do I want more people to come to the chat? Yes.
Yeah, so tell your friends and bring them.
Yeah, because my ultimate goal is to not have to work all this other stuff. I want to do this full time, but I can't. Because if I could do this full time, folks, we could knock out some stuff. Let's show some love to Tom Carlos tomorrow night when I go on there with Barton Nunley, the legendary Barton Nunley, and Tom. Let's give him the North Carolina cryptid. I forgot what it's called. I'll post it in the Paranormal Roundtable group, and we'll post a link or whatever.
I think it's called North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project.
Okay. And let's show them some love. One of the things that I noticed about you guys is that we travel well. What I mean by that is that when I go to another show, I fill up their chat. Like D.A. Roberts, I think his show's hit like 9,000 views now from us. And so be sure and check out D.A. Roberts. He has a lot of good stuff, man. Him and his guys were talking last night about the government being involved. Are they or are they not being involved? And I didn't really get to listen to much of it. I don't get to listen to much. But it sounded interesting. I was in the shower and I was kind of letting it play. But I love DA's show. I think he's just one of the unsung heroes in this podcast field, and he does a good job. Bettina does a good job. These people have good shows. They have good material. And you got to look at those guys and think, the stuff that they're coming up with and they're putting out is very valuable, and you got to check them out and look at them and see, for yourself. And always remember that, just because you're a fan of my show doesn't mean you can't go and listen to other people's shows. I mean, I don't care. If this is what you like to do, then more power to you. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those greedy people like, oh, you just my fans. What are you doing? We're all in this together. I have a lot of friends, and I want everybody to eat. But remember, when I go to other shows, let's show them some love, and y'all come and you support me and support PRT and represent, because y'all, the fans, the listeners, y'all impress people. When I go to other people's shows, they're like, whoa, I thought people would show up, but not like this. And it's PRT. It's the PRT family. We're PRT strong, dude. We are just, dude. Y'all are
troopers.
Paratroopers, dude. Like, everybody just, like Bettina, she was like, I want fans like you got. She goes, you got super fans, like really hardcore fans, man. And that's what I like. We're a family. We're a family here, man. That's why I give you things, because I care about you.
Yeah, I think that's why, though, is that,
Sorry.
we respect y'all and y'all show us the same respect, and we appreciate y'all for it, because it makes, everything we do all the more worthwhile, and it makes us enjoy doing this, which we already do already. But, it's just like another thing that's on top of it that makes it all the better.
Makes it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Tony came from working all night, and he's tired. Anthony's been doing all kinds of editing and working on all kinds of crap and working posts, and I've been working posts and doing all kinds of crap and going to meetings and trying to get things done. We just had payroll to do and everything, but we knocked it out. We took care of it, and we busted our asses, and we're here.
Phil Stern says, as children of this cult, we may not stray away.
David Whaley sent me a funny gift today about the cult. He's like, since you're in a cult, we're starting a cult now, and he posted a little funny thing on there. It made me laugh.
Be on the lookout for our new PRT Kool-Aid.
But I won't use Kool-Aid, because that was used by the communist who killed all those people in Ghana, Jim Jones. So may he burn in hell for what he did. Anyways, folks, we love you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for coming and hearing me talk and getting the stories. I try to bring you everything I can. We always have lots of meat on the bone, and there's a lot more to this abduction stuff. We're going to get into it.
Make sure to come to the conference as well.
Please.
Get your tickets. We want to see you guys there. We want to meet you guys, so we appreciate it if you guys make it.
Yeah, who knows what might happen. You might come out to the conference and we all just have a big party. Imagine hanging out and partying with me and, everybody that's going to be there.
There's a water park, too, so...
maybe we could talk Lyle and Nick and Ken and Barton and just everybody, DA and Adam Davies, and maybe even get Ron Moorhead. We try to get them all to go to the water park. I'd be like, look, I'll pay for you all to go to the water park with the money we make from the conference, and then wouldn't that be great?
Yeah,
Sounds like a blast.
I'm looking forward to that water park.
I could just see Ron Murphy there. I could see Sibylla, everybody, David. Folks, come to the conference. We'd love to have you. We're gonna feed you. We're gonna love you. You're gonna watch the best speakers in the business, in the community, talk about these subjects. David's presentation alone is worth the price of admission, and you're gonna get all these people that are gonna tell you these amazing things. Chris Garrett's gonna unveil his new show there. It's awesome. We have a bunch of people going to be there from the ghost community, the UFO community. I invited everybody. I said, come on, let's quit compartmentalizing. Let's all get together and let's figure some stuff out. Let's come with some theories. Let's figure some things out, man. Let's do it. Let's talk. All right. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for the donations. Everybody who donated. It's such a big help. It's all going to go toward the conference at this point. And thank you for being a paratrooper. Good night.